Hi, this is Bartolomeos, the suboptimal tiaraholic, and you're listening to DDOcast.
Today's music is DDO puzzle music. That's the electro house mix, and yeah, that's the music you get when you are solving puzzles in certain instances, and that's kind of its official title. And I know there's kind of a little website and puts these things through, and they remix them for us in different styles. So that's what that is. Hello, and this is DDOcast episode 260, recorded live on Sunday, October 14th. I'm your host, Siegfried Trent. With me is lovely producer and wife, Ann Trent. Hi, darling.
Hi, everybody.
And we have a guest this week. We have Geoff Hanna. Welcome, sir.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
We're doing good, I hope. And you apparently have survived your encounter with the PvP haters, which we'll talk about a little later.
All body parts still attached, I think.
Very good. You can catch live shows, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern U.S. every Sunday on G+ Hangouts as DDOcast or www.ddocast.com/live. You can watch the recorded shows on YouTube or listen to it on iTunes or RSS feed from ddocast.com. If you'd like to participate in the show, you can leave us a voicemail on the toll-free YARK line at 1-855-DDO-YARK. That's 1-855-336-9275, or email us at ddocast@gmail.com. Give us something to say on the air or make a request to join the show as a guest, as exemplified by Geoff here. Or you can be a part of the DDOcast legacy and make a segment or a commercial, which we will play on the show. Get all the show times, updates, and DDO goodness at Facebook, Twitter, G+, as DDOcast, or on DDOcast.com. So let's start, as we often do, with game news. Update 16 has been previewed. It is called the Netherese Legacy. At least I think that's how it's pronounced. We got a pronunciation guide a little later in the show. But, oh boy, more funny things to pronounce. Oriphion Huntsliver, I believe that's what it is. No, Huntsilver, is not the only disappearance. His journal, containing the fabled Nether Scroll, has also vanished, and the Harpers are in need of your help to retrieve it. Use caution as you voyage down the high road, as Netherese agents will stop at nothing to gain possession of the scroll. High Road of Shadows quest pack, the High Road Wilderness Adventure area, featuring 5 new dungeons, free to VIPs, and also a new primal avatar, Epic Destiny. And as Anne puts it, oh my god, there's no drow. So after a couple updates with lots of drow, there are no drow. Geoff, you went on and got to take a look at this. We'll talk a little bit more about it in detail later, but can you confirm that there are no drow?
I did not see a one. They're sneaky, but I didn't see any.
Yeah, they could be invisible and hiding, but apparently so much so that we don't see them anywhere around there, so that's kind of nice. So all of you who despair at the spell resistance, you get a little break from that. Right, we also had Update 15, Patch 2, that came out about a week ago and was released. It's a long list of bug fixes, basically. There's nothing else in there. And it's too long to read here, but there's lots of stuff. Quite a few things for Epic Destinies and this and that. The only change I've seen people talk about is the ghosts, which don't phase out quite as often, which I guess kind of has the unintended consequence of making them hit you more often and also run a lot faster. Apparently they're hard to outrun. But easier to kill them because they stick around. You don't have to wait forever for the phase spiders to come back. So that's kind of nice. But anyway, a long list of bug fixes, which, kudos to the devs for making good on their commitment to tackle that in earnest. And, there were good 50, 60 items on there. Quite a lot of stuff. One of the things that changed that maybe people are not so happy about, but hopefully it's going to change back, is respec costs for Epic Destinies. In Patch 2 Update 15, the cost was basically corrected. It always said that it cost between about 150 and 200k plat in order to respec your destinies, but it didn't actually take that much platinum to respec them. You had to kind of have that in your account, but then when you went to do it, it was actually charging you that many copper instead, and so it turned out to be significantly less gold. But they fixed that, so it actually does cost 150 to 200k platinum, and that's a lot to be respecting your epic destinies. So people are not happy about that, myself included. I think that's way too much. And fortunately, Eladrin posted that they were going to be lowering the cost in Update 16 to about 1k plat per epic destiny point that you have spent in the tree. So that's going to be between 1 and 24,000 plat, which I think is perfectly reasonable. I think you make double that questing, going on a couple high-level quests in a night. So I don't think that's a big deal. A little bit of a cost, a little gold sink, but not a big pain. I find, 150 to 200 is what I collect over 2-3 nights of play. I don't run a lot of dungeons when I play on a given night. So, and that seems a bit much for me to play around with those. So. Happy to hear that. I guess he intended to kind of do them both in one pass, but patch 2 ended up picking up the first fix and not the second fix, and so that'll be in Update 16. Mm-hmm. Let's see, Bugland. Stone of Change, airship amenities are not working at the moment. They will reappear. They will not appear on your ship if you have that amenity in there, so don't bother with it at the moment. Should be back, of course, next update. Probably with Update 16, I'm imagining. I don't think there's going to be any patches between now and then. Maybar Festival Endless Night is coming soon. I haven't seen an official date announced for it yet, but I am guessing it will be up by the time of our next show. So you hear about it here first. It's coming up soon. Don't know exactly when. It's basically a DDO Halloween-style event if you're new to the game and you have not done the Maybar Festival. Delira's Graveyard in House J kind of gets taken over by undead, and you can run around in there and fight them, and they will drop ingredients that you can turn in for themed gear. Lots of good stuff in there. There's some pretty neat items, especially if you like a Pale Master or rogues and monks. There's some good stuff. So not a ton of different items, but enough that, and most of them are pretty good. There's a cloak that is especially nice, I think. Also, there's a very unusual raid. It's like a 24-person kind of raid where you fight a spectral dragon. And it's kind of strange because you're not actually grouped. You just sort of get rando grouped, and then you have to use chat to communicate with each other. So it could be a little bit challenging, especially if you've never done it before. But most people will know how to do it, so they'll go and do their thing, and you're in there, and you can kind of figure it out for yourself as it goes and help beat that. And then you get kind of the rarest drops if you do that thing, and you need those for the epic items that you can turn in for. So that's Maybar in a nutshell. It's kind of fun. Usually it's a couple weeks of people hanging out there and blasting undead over and over again. So kind of enjoyable.
The one time when it's appropriate and in fact encouraged to be a battle cleric.
Oh yeah. Clerics traditionally out there, like clerics and wizard/sorcerers, kind of rule the roost. The undead will spawn up in big groups, and then you can just blast them. And the Radiant Servant aura thing is really powerful. It kills them in large quantities, which is what you want to do.
So what I want to know, now that we have epic levels, will there be epic level spawns out there?
Ooh.
I don't know.
They mentioned something about more beholders.
Yeah, there are new monsters. I mean, there weren't any beholders before, so I think you're going to get the undead beholders and some other good stuff. So I think so. And they have different instances now, so you can jump in to just fight monsters of about your level. Before, it was kind of like you would wander around and it would spawn up monsters just for you, so they would be close to your level, but if somebody high level were there, you get high level monsters, and then you might get killed. And that was kind of interesting and fun, a little different. Everybody's in the same instance. And you can still do that, but now when you go in there, you can pick an instance that's kind of scoped to your level, so you'll only get monsters that are worth fighting. It should be cool. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
It's a good time every year. And you're right about the cloak. You're right about the cloak.
Oh, that's awfully good.
Yeah,
I think the new level 24 one has a DR10 on it, which I think is nifty.
Yeah.
Let's see. DDO Store news. Now through October 18th, you can save. It's a kind of choose your own discount thing. So there's some codes. They are DISC 5, 15, and 25. And basically you get 5%, 15%, or 25% off. And you could use them depending on how many turbine points you spend. So if you spend 500, you can get up to 5% off. If you're spending 1,000 or more, 15. If you're spending 1,500, then you can get 25% off. And you can do this up to 10 times per account. So, if you really want to buy a whole bunch of stuff, this is a good time to do that. Creature companion, speaking of things to buy, there's a Magma, Shadow, and Granite Gargoyles, which are $4.95 TP each. And then they have treats and tricks at 50 turbine points, and you can buy them all the colors, all the treats, for $11.95. And there was a thread on the forum saying, somebody declaring that, all right, too much, like 495 turbine points. I'm not in for this one. I'll wait till they go on sale, or I'll buy something else. And I might agree with it. That's pretty steep. That's the most expensive pet they've had so far. And I've bought almost all of them to date. The last ones were a little bit more, well, a little bit less than this, but more than the ones previous, and I only bought one of them instead of buying the 3-pack because I was like, it's too much. So I think they're kind of trying to find the right price point where they get the most turbine points for their art assets, as it were. So we'll see. Not boycotting it or anything. I'm just like, too much for me. So, if you want them, go for them. They do look kind of cool. I thought they were neat looking. They're not exactly like the gargoyles already in-game. They're a little more detailed with kind of pointy ears and teeth and stuff.
Big heads, big heads. Tiny body, big head.
Yeah. Oh, have you seen them?
Mm-hmm.
Live in-game? Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of cute. I'm not a big cosmetic companion guy, but, if you're into that, what the heck? He's probably already walking around with an iron golem and a flesh render. You should definitely add the gargoyle to your collection, right?
Yep. I would say that that's the thing I spent the most turbine points on over the last year or so is those cosmetic pets. Because I haven't been buying as much LR, especially with the epic stuff. I haven't had many reasons to fiddle with my characters and LR them and stuff. So I've just been cruising along. And plus, they gave you some free feat respecs there on that one patch and stuff. So I haven't had to buy the things I usually buy.
For me, the DDO store is an endless maw of Ray's cakes. I will never run out of the need to buy Ray's cakes.
Yeah, I do buy those from time to time. I try to avoid it, but every once in a while I'm like, all right, I'll kick in for that. Let's see. Okay, so let's go over the Update 16 Lamania release notes. We got a new adventure pack, High Road of Shadows. I already kind of read the description of it. So these come in, I believe, a regular and epic version. The adventure area is for level 18.
Yes.
And then the quests themselves, do they have regular and epic versions, or are they epic only?
I think they were all epic.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it says here they're levels 23 to 25.
Right. That sounds right.
So pretty beefy then. The High Road is kind of the area that you have for the Explore area, and you can find nether scroll fragments out there. Probably kind of like you pick up regular scrolls, as you did in the previous ones. You can storm castles as you retrace... oh boy, more pronunciation. Oraphianus. Oh boy. That guy. You can retrace his steps. Mr. O, let's call him. And then you can help the Cormyreans defend the Netheril wizards. Anne's going to type the pronunciation for me. Thank you, darling. And you can find the new quest by heading through the gate in King's Forest. Look for the Harper's Court near the gate in Evening Star. So there are 12 journal entries around on the High Road. It's for level 18 and up. There's 5 new quests. A stay at the inn, which is somehow... Orifon, I'm going to have to learn how to pronounce his name, Orifon, managed to hide one of the nether scroll pieces inside a crowded inn. Detour, a Harper has one of the Orifon's nether scroll pieces, but he needs your help with transporting the intensely magical fragment to a safe location. Rest Stop, the Harpers have learned that Orifon had hid one of the nether scroll pieces inside a ruined castle that adventurers often use as a camping spot. And Stuck in the Swamp, Orifon gave one of his nether scroll pieces to an old hermit so that the hermit could hide it for him. And then, End of the Road. Doesn't say anything about that one, but I guess that's the end piece.
Find any information about it. So I don't know what that one is about. Sorry, guys, and I couldn't find any info.
All right, so here is the official pronunciation, Orifanun.
Oh,
okay.
my.
I think.
Yeah, that
Orifanun.
also use that.
Like Mr. O. All right, so you got out there and checked these things out to some extent, did you not?
I did. I ran them all end to end.
Oh, cool.
Not a thoroughly deliberate pass, but to get all the way through them, I ran them on normal on a level 22 barbarian with Panther and Cleric Hireling, and that was sufficient. for all of them. I was all the way even through to the end fight on the last one. I enjoyed them. I would definitely recommend, especially the first two. They were like a return to old-style quests, like we used to get a long time ago, where you kind of have to, you kind of want to listen to the NPC dialogue, and there's clues that you're going to get from that on what you need to do. There's things you have to figure out, and not puzzles, but actual things you have to figure out, and they're not hard. But it's better than, or at least a change of pace from, hey, let's do this linear quest where you kill everything on the way and loot at the end, and there you go, you're done. It's not that. So I liked it. I liked the NPC dialogues. I thought they were really, really interesting. And it looked like there was even one place maybe where choice of dialogue had an impact on the quest. And I kind of wish I'd had time to run that again and choose different dialogue options and see if indeed it was different. So if you're a flower sniffer, you're going to like these first two quests especially. And the others were interesting too. Some of them more of a return to the linear style, but like I say, I think it was a nice change of pace. They felt more polished and more involved than the last update, and they weren't as repetitious. Not to say that there wasn't some repetition, but not as repetitious. So, and I thought that was a plus too. Oh, and definitely get that cloak and bring it with you. There's a few places where you'll find it to be super handy. No hints or spoilers, but yeah, the cloak has a couple of attributes to it that'll be very helpful in a couple of these quests.
Cool. Did you get any neat name stuff out of these?
Well, there's a torch. I liked it. It doesn't, but no. Other than that, I don't know that I didn't encounter any. Oh, wait, I take that back. There's a whole new kind of magic item called an orb.
Oh, the orb. That's right.
And I did get one of those. Unfortunately, it was on my barbarian who cannot equip it. But it's apparently a shield for magic. So you block with it, and I wanted to see the animation. I'm hoping it's, presenting your holy sign in the face of Dracula or something. Or, it's probably not. It's probably just shielding, right? But when you do it, instead of getting damage resistance from your shield or PRR, you get spell resistance. Hey, that's kind of nifty. I like that.
Yeah, it says here in the notes, magical barrier force from the orb provides bonuses to saving throw and energy resistance, in addition to the other effects listed on the item. So, yeah, pretty neat.
Yeah,
the other effects I'm not sure that the other effects on the item mean you're going to carry it otherwise. Spell potency 7, that's pretty, that spell penetration 7. Might have been nicer at this level to have spell penetration, 8.
Right, yeah.
But still, interesting concept. I wish I could have seen it in action.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So, I want to take a moment. Cordovan Jerry is in the chat channel with us, and he says there's some cool stuff in there for sure, but I can't spoil it. There are some things that happen based on what you do, say, find, and explore.
Great. So definitely some replayability in these things, which I think is great.
I knew those dialogues mattered. I knew it.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's nice to not just play it again to get the XP, to get another shot at the loot, but to have it be a little bit of a different adventure. I think that's great.
I was quite pleased.
Cool. Let's see. We've also got the epic destiny called the Primal Avatar. So I'll read the little blurb here. A new epic destiny is available. The Primal Avatar is a hybrid spellcaster and melee destiny to the Primal Sphere. This destiny supports many playstyles and includes options for melee, spellcasting, healing, and supportive roles. The Primal Avatar offers options to enhance fighting with 2 weapons or while in animal forms, as well as enhancing pets and summons. With the Primal Avatar, you can gather the power of the spirits to you and call upon them to bolster your magic and martial abilities. Increase your druidic and ranger caster levels. Use the harness spiritual power to slip through the world unseen by foes. Call forth natural allies to enhance and aid your party members. Draw inspiration and power from the 4 seasons and unleash nature's wrath on your enemies, or become as strong as an oak as you train in Primal Avatar until you can shape change into a powerful plant-based form. Yes, you can become a shrub and destroy your foes.
Uber shrubbery.
Yeah. The mightiest tree in the forest. Yeah. Yeah, so no, it sounds pretty cool, and I saw people on the forums saying, I love the Primal Avatar, it's very exciting, so that's cool. It sounds pretty neat. And we definitely needed some more kind of druidy things out there, so I think that was a good pick to go with. Let's see, and we've got the orbs. We already talked about those a little bit. I am kind of hoping that becomes also you can get those as random items and other quests and stuff. That would be great. I've got Destiny fixes. Quite a few of these. Siren Song now allows for recurring saving throw every 3 seconds. They fixed an issue with Shrouded Champion. Many of the abilities can now be used while moving without canceling the action. Fate Singer, Siren Song, Rain, Aria, Dirge now regenerate for non-bards when in public spaces or resting. That makes twisting a little easier. Fate Singer Bound Fate was incorrectly displaying plus 15% when it was only 12. Ooh. The Exalted Angel Rebuke foe ability now plays appropriate visual effects. Exalted Angel Reborn in Light can now be activated with only 50 stacks instead of 100. Shadow Dancer's Meld into Darkness dodge value isn't limited and can now actually reach 100. And Grafmaster of Flowers, due to a bug, the enhancement Perfection of Soul was granting Hide instead of Intimidate, and that has been fixed. Also, some enhancement fixes. The Bard Prestige enhancement Spellsong Vigor now works properly on Warforged. Pale Masters in Undead form will deal normal damage instead of light damage with their attacks, which I was very confused by on my Pale Master for a little while. My monk, I'm like, what's doing light damage? What's going on here? Like, oh, okay. Apparently, they thought they were angels in the behind code. Archer's Focus Offensive Range Stance now does the following: while you are stationary, you gain on damage up to every 2 seconds. You gain plus 2% competence bonus to missile damage. This effect stacks up to 15 times. Moving or using the Many Shot ability clears the stack. So we talked about that a little bit on the last show. Other notable changes, ancient giant relics, ancient dragon relics, ancient elven relics, and all types of dragon scales are now ingredients instead of collectibles. Shield bashing 10 and 20% will now provide effects in the feedback of the player chat when you shield bash. Golems are now vulnerable to freeze and certain grab effects such as Icy Prison, Earth Grab, and Green Steel. Elemental weapons and Galabrazu. Demons now have slightly wider range of spells and do 75 to 100% more damage on their melee attacks. So, yeah, the Glabrazu were... Yeah, I was like, wow, these guys really aren't all that tough. Those are the big kind of, like, got a big set of arms and then a little set of arms, demons in the demon web and whatnot. And, yeah, I found them pretty underwhelming enemies. I was like, I thought these guys were badasses, but... They were apparently underpowered, and they have been brought up to snuff. 75 to 100% more damage is a lot, so I don't know if they're suddenly going to be death machines or they're just going to be a little bit more of a threat. I guess we'll find out.
Twice as many arms. They should be twice as damaging, wouldn't you think?
That's right. Yeah, you know, I'm always happy when it was interesting, like the ghost thing. Somebody was talking, I was like, they're complaining, you know, we can't run out through the orchard anymore to get to our quest without having to get hit by anything. It's terrible. And it's no good. Don't they ever test anything? This is an unattended, you know, horrible thing. And I was just like, yeah, you know, I mean, you could kill them. It's like, oh, I show up without my blue bar is lower. It's terrible. Yeah, monsters are there to fight, aren't they? I mean, you can avoid them, but maybe some of them are faster, like, you know, ghosts that don't actually have to walk anywhere. And so it just seems strange. I'm like, it's just another challenge. Rise up to the challenge, defeat it. That's what heroes do.
That's right.
And complain.
If it was easy, they wouldn't need heroes to do it, right?
Exactly. We just send the peasants out there to run through the quest and pick everything up for us. You know?
And we'd all be playing Dungeons and Peasants.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a point about 16. Do you mind before we move on?
Oh, no, go for it, please.
Because I think what it really is a stealth bug fix release. All right, now here's why I think this. There's new content. I won't argue that. It's good new content. There's quite a bit. No raid, but still nice. But 53 bug fixes.
Yeah.
That's a lot. You know? So, I mean, now normally it used to be that the even-numbered updates were new technology, right? And the odd ones were content.
Yep.
I think that they just snuck in a gigantic bug fix release. So 53 bug fixes, only 4 enhancements, 4 things that were kind of like, you know, tweaks. I don't understand why they had to do it, but I can at least see there must have, you know, like, for example, changing the dragon scales and relics into collectibles. You know, maybe that may be supporting changes that are down the road. I can see how that might be necessary, right? Even if it doesn't make sense now.
Yeah.
And only a couple that were really head scratchers. But my very favorite, cows are now oxen.
Yeah, you wonder where that comes from.
I was wondering about that. I was like, what? Was that a bug?
Well, I mean, there's sort of an existentialist theory going on here, right? I mean, are all oxens cows? Probably. No? Are all cows? I don't know. So anyway, the point was, this is actually...
Why oxen? Why not bovines?
Yeah, there you go. All
They're not squirrels anymore?
So more bug fixes than in the last patch, which was labeled as a bug fix patch. There's actually more here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
so, anyway,
I think this is good because that's what we asked for as players.
I
More
completely
bug fixes.
I mean, I still wish they're not hitting the bugs I really want them to hit. but they're hitting the bugs.
Well, Jeff, what do you want them to hit?
It annoys me beyond my ability to describe that hand wraps have never completely worked all the way.
Oh, yeah.
Ever. Right? I mean, they're pretty close to working now, right? Now they only work unless they're, like, crafted and you try to put Bane on. I don't know all the details. I just know they're still not 100% right. It drives me crazy. But, so what? 53 bug fixes, a whole bunch last time, and it's a range of things, too. I mean, they're fixing quests at 3rd level. They're fixing content that came out 4 years ago and hitting all the new stuff. So I just think it's really encouraging, and I wanted to make that point.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really nice, and I encourage more. I mean, yeah, the patch fix that they did is bigger than usual. Usually the patches have 2, 3, 4 items in them, but now they're coming out with a big pile of stuff. So, yeah, I think they've just prioritized up their bug queues and told the programmers to spend a lot more time than they normally would on those, and they're just hammering them away. I think that's probably also why you see some of the weird kind of quirky ones is. They'll usually on most departments they will record every bug they get, anything they can find, and put them in a big stack, and then they assign them out to the programmers. And sometimes programmers will grab ones that are going to be easy fixes, that just kind of get some numbers down while they're working on something harder. So you'll see little weird things, that have been on the list.
Yeah.
And maybe they've been in the list for a long
time.
time.
The interns to do.
Right? Yeah. You got to keep the interns busy.
Sure, or ones the developer hates. Like, was it Kobold Killer that hated that you could sit and spin at a shrine, and that had to be fixed, right?
Yeah.
It just had to be, because he hated it.
Yeah. Yeah, they usually do give them a certain amount of discretion, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I know how that is.
I know if they are like a regular software shop, they'll do the global ones first, and then they'll work on the ones that are class-based or quest-based.
Mm-hmm.
And then work specific from there on.
Yeah, I guess it depends. I mean, usually there's a manager somewhere that sets priorities and they feed out the bugs in priority list. But sometimes, like I said, you give programmers discretion to pick things that they want to work on just to make them happy. Let's see. Also, it's a question. Sometimes they'll work on a bug, but it'll take longer to verify that it's fixed. So that it has to kind of go back through testing again and get verified. And the more complicated the bug, the longer that takes. So I wanted to talk a little bit, Jeff, about your PvP articles that you wrote. Partly because PvP is kind of cool, and maybe you could summarize a little bit some of the things that you discussed and looked into, but also because of the. I don't know. I find it amusing. The fan reaction to those articles was both, positive, some people giving you high marks for thinking outside the box, and negative. Many detractors saying, "Thou hast mentioned the PvP. We must not mention the PvP. It must go away. The only good PvP is no PvP." That sort of thing. So, I'm just always amazed the passion people have for the subject.
Me too, and it wasn't surprising. I mean, I wrote in the first post that I was expecting to be attacked by a swarm of literary piranhas. And they weren't all that literary, though, I guess. So I might have overestimated the attacks. But, it's the range of passion on this issue. It's not the full bell curve. It's, the people that are in favor of PvP, either they've just been beaten into submission or what. Because, their responses were, okay, that might be cool, Okay, a little bit. I'm in favor of that, sort of. Nobody's watching me, are they? Right? But the people who are against it, they are so against it. They are all the way against it. Oh my God, you used those words in conjunction. We all agreed we were never going to do that. So, I mean, I'm not a very controversial guy. But, I got, all kinds of negative reputation, and it carried on to the blog. I got, people were voting me for 1 out of 5, and that's cool. I want people to express their opinions. I like that. It's just unusual to see some people so against it. So I went into this with the general idea of, I'm going to just write 3 or 4 articles on it, but people kept bringing up points, and even though I made the joke about not very literary piranhas, a lot of the points were really thought through, and many of them were really heartfelt as well. So it just kept kind of extending the things that I needed to say in order to finish this story off, right? So I started out examining, why I thought that PvP needed another look. And I'll say here, because I don't think anybody can actually throw anything at me through the screen, the reasons I still think that's a good idea. If we could come up with a PvP that most people liked, see, now you heard that assumption. It starts out with most people like it, right? If you could do that, that would be great for the game and extend the life of the game. We'd keep the servers going forever. Okay. Then you got to start looking at, well, all right, what PvP do we have today? And so one of the articles was a very in-depth look at all of the types of PvP that are available, and there's actually more than I think most people know. As far as there's good capture the flags, there's death matches, there's stuff other than just run into the pit and start brawling. And then we started looking at ideas on how we could make it better. And we spent one article talking about why people hate it so much. That one probably could have been the entire series. There's a lot of people just have bad memories of other games that have implemented PvP in such a way that it's possible to bully other players. Yeah. And, bullying is never fun. And I was bullied in Diablo. I didn't have that label for it back then. This was a long time ago. I just knew it was something that sucked and I didn't want to do it anymore. But I can understand. If you hear PvP and you immediately associate that with a bullying episode, you're probably not going to be in a huge favor to run out and do that again, especially not in your favorite game, right? So... But I think we finished in a high note, talking about taking all the ideas that had come out during the series, throwing in the ones that I had, because I'm the one writing it. I get to do that, and put them together in a big mishmash. So I found it to be a lot of fun. I enjoyed a lot of the back and forth. I didn't enjoy all of it, but it's nice to know people are reading you. I guess that's a plus, right?
Yeah, you get a good reaction. It's a subject that people, whether they hate it or not, they're certainly interested in it, right? There's a lot of, thought and talk, and so, that's kind of a cool thing. A lot of the times you write an article, and, some people read it, a couple people might say, hey, that was nice, but basically you don't get a whole lot of comment or feedback. But on that one, you're almost guaranteed to get some feedback. So,
definitely dress up in several layers of clothing. Make sure you're approaching your computer from a safe distance. Oven mitts are maybe appropriate. And then go ahead and start talking about PvP. Yeah. Okay.
I would say, I think probably its biggest problem is the reaction is often so negative that, the devs are unlikely to want to go there, if you know what I mean, right? Because they know that there's going to be a certain amount of backlash and complaining and that. So, but I don't know, if you get a good enough idea, then it could happen, because the proof is in the pudding. In the end, if people do something and they like it, then then it's a win. Sure. So sometimes you have to take a risk.
Sure. And there's games that do it well, and there's games that don't. But there's games that do it better. So, I think a lot of people assume that I'm a foaming at the mouth pro PvPer. I'm really not. I don't usually. I just like this game, and anything that makes this game more fun and to appeal to more people that I want to meet and haven't met yet, I'm going to be in favor of that. Yep. So, there you go. That's my opinion on PvP in a nutshell.
I also would say, from my experience in PvP and DDO, we have a higher percentage of generally mature players, not all of them, but a higher percentage at any rate. And, they're a little more graceful and nice folks when you do PvP with them. Most of my PvP experiences in DDO have been very positive, fun, kind of lighthearted, or in the case of the Congo Bowl, a more serious competition, but still, with a lot of respect and good sportsmanship by everybody. So, and I have not had that experience in a lot of games where I played PvP. So,
I've mainly learned, oh right, I'm bad at PvP, but I've learned that a few times in a row.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, as it is now, certain kinds of characters are a lot better than others, and so there's a little bit of a limit as to what you can achieve. Although, I still like to go in with my bard and just kind of pester people more than actually win. So I will irritate them a certain percentage, and then they get to kill me. So that's to warm them up. But yeah, so I still have a good time with it. Okay.
So, but I guess, if anybody else is curious, that was on DDOgamer.com. I should throw that out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Check it out. Just put in the tag PvP, and you can read 6 articles on it if it's something that you'd like more information about.
Yeah, it's well worth reading. And I would especially say if you're somebody who is interested in game design, there's a lot of really interesting ideas there. It brings up a whole bunch of different precepts and, principles of game design, and especially trying to make a game that is good for PvP and good at PvE and is a role-playing game that features some kind of progression is, I would say, in a way, one of the holy grails of game design. You've got to be awfully smart to make it really good and to have all those things work together in one game. So, I don't know. I think it's a really good set of articles to read, and the responses are really interesting in many cases. Just bring up a lot of thoughtful points. So, if you like game design, you should definitely give those articles a read.
Thank you.
Let's see. Our special feature that Anne put together for us here is the Update 16 Forgotten Realms Lore Guide. What the heck is a Netherese? As I've subtitled it. So, if you're wondering what is the Netherese, that is what this whole update is about. Well, you're about to find out as I read through the information that Anne has prepared. So, what are the Nether Scrolls? You heard that you are hunting for fragments of the Nether Scrolls. What are these things? Well, the Nether Scrolls consist of two sets of 50 scrolls each. One set older and more tarnished than the other, and possibly the most powerful artifacts in all of the Forgotten Realms. They have no direct magical powers. They provide a seemingly limitless supply of arcane knowledge. So, who created the Nether Scrolls? They were made by the Saruk, an ancient race of reptilian humanoids that populated Faerun ages ago. They are the ancestors of the modern Forgotten Realms Saurians, such as the Yonti, Nagas, Petrafolk, Asabi, Lizardfolk, Troglodytes, Tren, and many other scaled ones. Why did they make... Terrafolk?
Like pterodactyls.
Oh, pterodactyls. Oh, okay. I didn't know about them. So why did they create the Nether Scrolls? Well, the Saruk sought to gather all magical knowledge from within their borders into one location in order to consolidate their arcane power. This effort spawned its own secret society, which lasted thousands of years, and the fall of the Saruk and the other creator races. This arcane collection included magic from the creator races. Eventually, the golden skins of the World Serpent were created and now known as the Nether Scrolls. What do they look like? Well, the scrolls appear to be sheets of gold or platinum with arcane runes floating about on the surface, so not your typical looking scrolls. Why are they so awesome? Well, each time a scroll is read, different knowledge is gleaned. When a reader gains sufficient understanding, a rereading of the scrolls provides new knowledge and information. There did not seem to be any limit to the amount of information one scroll could contain. No destructive magics can affect the scrolls. They can be physically destroyed, but will always reform themselves eventually. And what is the relationship between the scrolls and the Nerethil? After the discovery of the Nether Scrolls, the arcane might of Nerethil increased at least 100-fold. The Netherese found the scrolls among the ruins of... Oh, there's not a pronunciation for this one. Ari Vandar, a kingdom of evil sun elves, also known as the Vashantar Empire. There we go. I should get through that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of lore here.
Evil sun elves? Are those like anti-drow?
I guess
Pretty
so.
much.
Evil. I've never heard of evil sun elves before, but that's pretty good. Usually those are, all golden skinned and fair and loving in the sun, but I guess not. These ones are bold.
So you think.
All right, let's see. Who are the Netherese? The Netherese. Netherese? All right. Yeah, I think that's it. Netherese.
Or Netherese. Take
All
your
right.
pick.
They are
Potato.
They're an ethnic group of humans residing in Netheril. Although many cultures are either descendant or have been absorbed by the Netherese in modern timeline, some Faerun facts about the Netherese are as follows. Netheril was once an empire built on magic, located just north of Cormyr, past the King's Forest and the Stormholds Mountains. Netheril was once governed by the Magocracy and home of the most powerful wizard who ever walked on Faerun, Karsus. The Netherese first discovered the Nether Scrolls roughly 4,000 years ago. When Mistral, goddess of magic, died the first time and over 2,000 years ago, the magical Netheril Empire collapsed. Many of the floating magical cities crashed to the ground. Mistral is reincarnated into Misra. This cataclysmic event is known as the Fall. 3 Netherese successor states survived for a while, but all were eventually destroyed by the encroaching desert. Soon after, all of the Netheril region was consumed by a curse and became known as the Great Desert of Anorach. Or Anorak. One floating city survived by being transformed into the Plane of Shadow during this fall. The city is known as Thultanthar, the City of Shade. Upon their return to Faerun, the Netherese wizards ended the curse of Anorak and are now the land of Netheril became known as it is today. The City of Shade has returned and its evil wizard rulers are bent on world domination. So I guess that's kind of part of the backstory of this. If you read books to read, if you want to learn more about this, Netheril, the Empire of Magic, Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition boxed campaign expansion for Dungeon Masters, and also The History of the Realms, a book that chronicles the history of Forgotten Realms, campaign setting, has a detailed timeline, essays from Elminster, of Shadowdale, and other Realms lore experts, and it's just a handy supplement as a reference guide for players and game masters alike, if you want to learn about the Forgotten Realms.
Huh.
So, Jeff, does some of this stuff, I mean, do you recognize any of this from the adventure?
I'm trying to think. Well, the scrolls. I mean,
Yeah.
You're out there trying to put together one of the scrolls.
Are they gold and shiny, or do they look like paper?
No, it looked like spinning paper. It was spinning, looked like leather or parchment or something.
Okay.
Not gold, no. Wow, what a bunch of hard-to-pronounce things.
Yeah, that's typical fantasy stuff for you. I remember when I was younger and I used to make D&D stuff, I would always put in, especially for elves, unpronounceable mishmashes of sounds. You know, I would make a sound and then I would try to write that down with letters. I think that's how these things happen. And then they're just awful messes. Nowadays when I do stuff, I try to, you know, I occasionally have the exotic, hard-to-pronounce thing, but most of the time I try to pick something that still sounds cool, but is pretty phonetic and doesn't have too many syllables in it. And hopefully that gets appreciated occasionally. But
Yeah,
Let me tell you, it was very hard to look up these words and find the correct pronunciation. And I complained at one point, and Jeff Grubb said he would be happy to sit with me and help me with pronunciations.
oh, well, that's nice.
Well, that was quite the verbal gymnastics floor show. I'm very impressed.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Cool. Well, we do have a bunch of segments, but we're not going to play them on the live show, most likely, because of the time limitation that we have for the recording. But they will be on the podcast, so if you want to listen to the recorded podcast, and you could kind of jump into the middle there, and you will hear Deadnettle as he discusses how fate points work. Also, we have a long interview with creator of Forgotten Realms, Ed Greenwood. It's like 40 minutes of Ed Greenwood, and he's worth listening to for 40 minutes, so definitely check that out. And we're also going to have Shamgar's Epic Education, Episode 24, Tour de Forge, Final Act. So I think those are all well worth listening to. So if you're listening to this, go check out the recorded podcast when that comes out, and jump into the middle and listen to the segments, because they're all pretty awesome.
Okay, it is now segment time. We've got 3 cool segments for you. First up, we have Deadnettle, who will be talking about fate points. Then we've got Scott Tompkins' interview with Ed Greenwood. That's going to clock in at about 40 minutes, but well worth a listen. And then finally, Shamgar's Epic Education, Episode 24, Tour de Forge, Final Act.
Aye, it's me, Deadnettle of Thalanus. Welcome to Sailor on the Sea of Fate Points, Deadnettle's Guide to Fate Point Fishing by Fair Means and Foul. First, what are fate points? Fate points are part of the Epic Destiny system in DDO. Without going into all the details on the Epic Destiny system, you use fate points to buy Twists of Fate. Twists of Fate are alternate powers that come from outside your main destiny. For example, if you are a monk and you choose the Grandmaster of Flowers destiny, you can choose a twist of fate from another destiny. You might take Action Boost Haste from the Fighter destiny. That's called Legendary Dreadnought. Twists of Fate are very powerful. You can imagine having a haste boost on your monk yields an absurd damage boost as well as a burst of ki power that can really turn around a tough fight. More powerful Twists of Fate cost more fate points, so you want to max out your fate points if possible. I realized from the last DDOcast that some listeners may not have started farming for fate points yet, so I thought I would create a one-time segment to share some of the things I learned along the way, which I wish I had known at the outset. On the last show, Siegfried said that he hadn't earned many fate points yet. He'd given up on it as a system. He would just buy fate points from the store or take a few fate points from the easy destinies close to his own. But I think if you take some simple steps, many players can make the most of this part of the game. So here's what I've learned about fate point fishing so far. Sometimes playing DDO can be like running a marathon. I find that the first 18 miles are fun, and then it starts to feel a little bit like work. But I'm not going to stop, not after 18 miles, and I love that last mile. It seems to go so fast, and it feels great when you reach the finish. So just because we love DDO, we don't have to love every second of it. It's alright to think of farming fate points as that last section of a marathon. It's a kind of work that you want to grind out to get to the finish line. Many players seem to feel that fate points are too much of a grind, and there's lots of other fun stuff to do in the game, and they haven't gone beyond 1 or 2 points in the destinies close to their primary. This is kind of like people who have never done a true reincarnation on their character. And sure, you don't have to do it to play and enjoy the game and do all the content in the game and succeed. You do have to realize within yourself that you're making a decision to sort of stunt your character and cut your character's growth off at a certain point, which is fine, and that's what, if that is what you want, and many people do. I do think a lot of people will eventually come around to fate points because I think it's going to be a long time before they raise the level cap to 30, so eventually we have plenty of time to sort of get there and break down and grind a few fate points. And hopefully these tips will help you a bit in the process. So first, let me make a few observations. One is that Twists of Fate are very powerful. You can get a lot of extra spell points, extra difficulty check on your spells, extra spell penetration power, extra action boosts. Melees could get +6 to their combat difficulty checks. You could make energy shields, you can fly through the air, and all kinds of things with your Twists of Fate. So they can really do a lot for your character. Now they do take a lot of experience to build up. It takes 1.5 million for each of the 9 destinies to get them up to level 5, and then 1.98 million on any destiny that you intend to play. So if you're just going to level up one destiny to play on and all the others to get your fate points, that's 15.48 million experience to max out the system. So 15 million.4, that is a lot of experience, and some planning and preparation is in order. Now you can simply buy 2 fate points from the online DDO store. You buy something called the Tome of Fate +2. That costs 995 turbine points. It gives you +2 inherent fate point bonus. This does not stack with the +1 tome, so I suggest that you just buy the +2 tome and be done with it. Some players are really mad about this because here's a very powerful item in the game that you can only find in the store. You can't earn it during the game through play unless you grind out 1,000 turbine points, which is quite a bit of favorite grinding. So some people feel like this is just sort of pay to win. Now, I have 3 basic tips, and they fall into 3 categories. Number 1 is attitude, number 2 quests, and number 3 suggestions for your build. So let's start with talking about your mental attitude. Even if you hate grinding fate points, I think eventually you're going to break down and want to do it at least a little bit. And there's no right attitude for farming fate points, but I think you just need to sort of know yourself and what you want to do, and being really clear on what you want out of the system is going to help you get through it. So first, let's talk about the difference between grinding fate points and playing. When I say grinding, what I mean is earning fate points as fast as you possibly can by repeating only the high yield quests over and over again. A lot of people don't even actually spend the destiny points that they earn as they go. it means doing easy quests that you don't really need to use your character's full powers or potential to complete. So you could be running in a Destiny that you're not even using, but you're just using your sort of basic powers to complete the quest. And for example, a lot of players have ground out their Destiny doing a quest called the House of Broken Blades. And in that quest, one person runs through the house, pushes one lever at the end, and DDoors back to the beginning. 5 players are standing around doing absolutely nothing. They're piking during most of the quest. All the players then kill the boss. You earn about 25,000 experience in 2 minutes. 5 players don't even really do anything. They're not even really using their characters. You repeat this 400 times, and your fate is complete. That's called grinding, and it works great if you can stay awake and not kill yourself. Now, other players will actually try to play the Destinies, and that means you take your wizard and you play him through actual quests while working through the fighter Destinies. You try to use the extra action boosts and the extra combat difficulty checks and the extra critical damage to help your party complete the quest. And this approach could be a lot more fun and interesting, although it will certainly take longer. But actually, there's not much in the fighter tree that could help most wizards. I mean, does +6 trip actually help your wizard do anything? His trip skill is probably outside the range of where +6 would actually do anything anyway. And many of the trees have prerequisites for the different powers that you buy. So, for example, does your wizard have the cleave feat? No. Well, then you can't even take a lot of the fighter stuff. So it works the other way as well. Much of the wizard Destiny requires a spell school focus, which you might not have on your fighter. So actually trying to play some of the Destinies can sometimes be painful. It's like grafting whale flippers onto your thoroughbred racehorse. It's pretty painful to watch sometimes. And as a little side note, I'm not really sure what the designers were thinking when they created this fate point system. Did they think people would just go and run the House of Blades over and over 400 times? Is that what they were planning for us to do for fun? Or did they think that everybody would reincarnate 10 times in order to make a character that could actually use each of the different Destinies? But then if that's what they were thinking, then what about this reincarnation bug? And that's the bug that destroys all your Destiny experience when you reincarnate for some people. So that kind of negates that option if that's what they were planning. And I kind of tend to think that maybe they just didn't think and they just didn't play test this system at all. I'm not really sure. I wish I could have some insight into what they were thinking when they set this up. So another aspect of your attitude that you sort of should think about before you get started is, are you a person who would rather do a big grind or small doses? Some people just like to grind the fate points out all at once. I was talking to one fellow who did all 20 million experience points in a weekend just by running House of Broken Blades. And he got an experience pot and he just got it done in 72 insane hours. Now, my life doesn't allow me to play like that, and even if I could, I think I would just shoot myself in the head with my rune arm if I ever did that. I prefer to work on my Destiny about an hour and a half at a time over several weeks. I'm almost there on my main character. I'm almost done. So you pick your poison. I like mine in manageable doses. Some people just want to get it done. One thing that I would suggest, if you are going to grind it out, get some music or a good movie to play while you're grinding it out. Especially if you're one of the 5 people who's just standing there doing nothing most of the time. One gentleman that I played with recently admitted that the only thing that got him through his Destinies was listening to Bob Marley. Deadnettle approves. And the gentleman implied that he may have been enjoying British Columbia's #1 export crop. And the irony there is that, of course, Deadnettle was watching a Canadian teledrama, which is about our BC smugglers and smuggling. So it's very appropriate conversation there, but not appropriate for a family show like this one. And you can edit that part out if you like. So now let's talk a little bit about quests, quest counters, and farming. One thing that you have to realize about farming out your epic Destinies is that when you reach maximum epic XP, like level 25, your quest counters stop advancing. So this means while you're leveling up, you can run a quest 3 times, and then you start taking a penalty to XP if you have too many quest completions. But after 12 times, you're earning almost nothing. After you reach maximum XP, the the completion counter stops advancing. So it treats every time you run a quest as though it were your first time. You don't get a first-time bonus every time, but there's no repetition penalty. So, for example, Deadnettle has run House of Broken Blades about 400 times and is still earning maximum experience. And this doesn't work if you ran a quest 3 or more times while leveling up. So, for instance, Deadnettle ran Vaughn 3, I think 5 times while leveling up. So on the experience chart, it always shows 5 prior completions, and I'm taking a 30% experience penalty. So that can ruin a quest for your Epic Destiny grinding. You need so much experience for fate points, and some quests give experience so much faster than others. It's really good to save some quests and don't do them at all until you reach level 25, or maybe don't do them more than twice until you reach level 25, and keep them for XP farming after you're capped to work through all your destinies quicker. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to take level 25. I believe, I haven't really tested this myself, but I've heard this from a number of people. If you have enough experience to reach level 25 and you're banking level 25, your quest counter still won't advance. So I believe you could handle it that way if you wish. Some of the good quests to save are Vaughn 3, Fathom the Depths, Unquiet Graves, and House of Rusted Blades. House of Rusted Blades, I think, is the most popular. It does give the fastest experience per minute, but I do like to use some of the others. For example, if you're farming Vaughn 3, the experience isn't quite as fast, but you do get epic tokens when you run it, and I also think it's a more fun quest. You're not just standing around doing nothing, and that counts for me. So I have saved Vaughn 3 on my latest character. Not running it at all until I reach level 25, which of course means that I can't qualify and get into the dragon either until I reach 25, and then I'll be running on an epic, and I'll get plenty of it for that character eventually. Unquiet Graves gives clerics of Amuantor commendations, and for certain characters who are short sword users that I wanted to just get a massive amount of Amuantor commendations, so that was a good one to farm and get XP and get the commendations at the same time, even if it wasn't as fast, and you are active and it's fun. Frankly, sometimes I just need a break from House of Rusted Blades. I did that quest 400 times. I mean, I'm really sick of it. So the take home here is to save some of the best quests. Don't run them while you're leveling up. Save them for your destiny farming. You'll be glad you did later. Now, regarding characters, the first thing to think about is melee versus caster. Out of the 10 current destinies, only Magister and Draconic Incarnation are exclusively magic-oriented. Exalted Angel is mostly caster-oriented, but it does have a few melee options like Smite the Wicked within it. And on the other hand, 5 of the destinies are exclusively melee, and the Bard and the Paladin destinies have a lot of stuff for melee within them. So, for example, on my Drunken Rogue, that's a monk, druid, rogue type of mix, I found that almost every destiny has something for melee and not necessarily for caster. On my caster favorite soul, I found most of the destinies were just useless, and working through them was painful, and I just went through them as quick as I could grind. So if you plan on playing the destinies and enjoying them, it seems like it makes a lot more sense to do so on a melee build and not a caster build. The second suggestion for characters is to take a look at the prerequisites. If you're planning to actually play the destinies, look ahead at some of the feat requirements that they have. So Cleave is a requirement for some of the stuff in Legendary Dreadnought. Spell Focus is a requirement for a lot of the stuff that's in Magister or Draconic trees. It's another reason to work those feats into your build if they'll help you actually use the destinies while you're playing them later and earning your twists. And also, final suggestion for people who plan on playing the destinies, I would say don't over-specialize your character. My best experiences in this have been with my Drunken Rogue, and that's 1 Rogue, 12 Monk, 7 Druid. So he's a versatile character. He has some melee, some spells, some utility abilities. He can get something from almost every destiny, so I've enjoyed the process. I built my favorite soul with no melee capability, right? It's just healing. So he was really hamstrung when he tried to play on the melee-focused destinies, and it wasn't much fun. So how much to focus and how much to try to work in different abilities in a character is always an issue in DDO, and everybody has their own preferences on how much they want to specialize. Just bear in mind that over-specialization will make your fate points more of a grind, and if you want to go that route, you should sort of plan it and know it ahead of time. And that final character suggestion for people who are going to grind their destinies and do not intend to play them, and that is regarding D-Door. D-Door is a really essential power if you plan on grinding out your fate. House of Broken Blades is much faster if just one person in the party has a D-Door. Many of the high-yield quests, you find yourself grinding like Unquiet Graves. D-Door is really useful. Fathom the Depths, essential to have a D-Door. So if you plan to grind, either play an Arcane and take D-Door, or play a Bard and have D-Door, or play a Human and take the Dragon Marks. I remember you can always TR back to the race that you really wanted later, and you keep all your fate points through your TR. So it's okay to play a Human for one life and get yourself through this. Or just get a friend with Dimension Door. That's the final option. But somehow, if you're going to be grinding these things, get a D-Door into your build. All right, and 3 final points. One is to take advantage of bonus XP weekends. We just had our first weekend that was a bonus for Epic XP, and I expect that there will be more. So have your tune ready to strike, and strike when the cobalt is hot. One player I know earned all his fate points just in about 30 hours of grinding during a bonus weekend, so that was great. He was talking about suicide by Sunday night, but I did 3 or 4 hours of grind on that weekend, and I was quite pleased by my progress. Second suggestion, go for the sort of the low-hanging fruit. Level 1 is only 180,000 XP on a Destiny. Level 5 is 1.5 million. So it makes sense to sort of go around the tree and complete the low levels quickly, get a bunch of easy fate points, start in the middle with melee and work your way out. Get a bunch of fate points quickly that way. You can start using them, and you can see what you're building up to. It's a little more exciting. You get about half your fate points with 1/3 of the grind, so especially if you're going to do it in slow doses, it makes sense to work around the map, get the easy fate points first, start using them and having fun before you max out. And final comment is about the lesser reincarnation bug. At the time that I'm making this segment, putting it together, there's an unresolved bug in the game that has affected some players when they lesser reincarnate. And we don't know the actual number or the actual sort of percentage chance that this might happen to you. But some players have lost all their Epic Destiny experience when they lesser reincarnated. That is 15 million experience points gone in a giant poof when that guy burns your soul stone. So you can be sure that the players were a little bit sad about losing that 15 million experience. It seems to affect a pretty small number, but it's so catastrophic. I mean, if you think of the hours that you put into that, I think everybody should be warned. I'm not going to lesser reincarnate until this bug is just guaranteed fix. So far, Turbine has not done anything for the players affected, like try to give them back their experience. They just said, we understand your frustration. Sorry. So that's been frustrating. More frustrating to people even than the actual event is Turbine's response to it. And Turbine hasn't said anything about fixing the bug, when we might expect a fix as far as we know. So take ye warning about lesser reincarnating at this time, which is really too bad, because if I could lesser reincarnate my favorite soul, I would. I'd give him some melee powers, and I'd work my way around the tree and enjoy those, those melee trees. I'd put some points into strength, and I'd get power attack, and I'd get improved critical longsword, and I'd actually play the game and use those powers instead of just trying to grind through it as fast as possible. So I'm really sad about this bug, and I do hope that they will take action to fix it soon. So to summarize, my basic advice: figure out what your attitude toward this is going to be. Figure out how you're going to get through it mentally, whether that means music, artificial stimulants, or whatever. If you're going to go step by step, figure out what your attitude toward this is. Part 2, set up the right build, go melee, get a D-door, whatever your playstyle is going to be, and then part 3, save the best quests for the end. And if you take those 3 steps, I think that you actually you'll get through your fate point grinding much faster, and you actually could even enjoy it. And I hope that you do, because I just think this game is there for fun. I love it. I know that most of the listeners do too. So good luck, and so long from Deadnettle.
Alright, hi, my name is Scott Tompkins. I go by Untitled in the community forums, and I am privileged to interview Ed Greenwood, the creator, author, and world builder of Forgotten Realms.
Hi.
Pleasure.
Likewise, yeah.
So, with the recent Realms introduction to high-level content inside Dungeons & Dragons Online, it almost worked out to be the perfect time to do this kind of question, answer, and interview period. This is the first time the Realms has hit our MMO, and first time that it's really hit a mainstream MMO that I'm aware of. What are your views on that?
I think it's a great idea, long overdue, because the Realms is designed to be a huge, all-embracing fantasy setting, so any style of gaming can be accommodated by something I have designed since I was 6, and I'm now in my mid-50s, to just be an incredibly detailed fantasy world. I know some gamers don't like or use that level of detail, but it's there if you want it. And from the beginning of TSR's involvement with the Realms, they wanted it to be a home for the D&D game for 2nd edition and a unified world. So they kept asking me, okay, where's the jungles? Where can we put pirates? Where's the desert? And I would just point out, okay, here are all the places. So it's got something for everyone, so it would be great to host that sort of thing.
Yeah, on that same note, what's it like seeing your world and characters and areas that you've envisioned and put on print turned into a kind of online world like that?
It's great because they feel alive without me being the DM setting everything up. The one thing your world can never do when it's your world is surprise you. Your players can surprise you, but the world itself, there's nothing around that corner unless you put it there.
That definitely makes sense.
So, you never get the surprises, and when the world comes alive online, then you get surprises. Hopefully good ones.
On that note, how involved were you throughout the creative and design process with Turbine and Wizards and Warner Brothers and Hasbro and the entire group there on letting this come to be?
At the initial thing, when it was set up, I wasn't involved at all. But when I started doing design work behind the scenes for Wizards, they were trying to think of, Turbine was trying to think of how we would move into the Realms. And that was a decision that I wasn't directly involved in, but when they got to areas in the Realms like the Dales and so on, then they would say, so Ed, what do you think of this? And how do you see this playing out? And how would X react? And what happens if they go and see Y? And so I would read what they'd written and say, well, this, or don't forget that, or, well, has somebody done this yet or done that yet? Because that'll affect how so-and-so, and everything in the Realms, just as in the real world, is interconnected. There are consequences to everything you do, and what the neighbor hears about how you treated his or her neighbor will affect how he or she reacts to you. And most of the stuff I've done with Turbine so far has been to point out, if this, then that. Or, don't forget this, but if you do that, or if the player characters do that, then it's most likely that they'll find this when they come to this location. There will be a reaction or a readiness, or somebody will have reacted to something in light of what they've heard about what the player characters are doing. So it's sort of like just sort of showing people, okay, it's a big spider web. This is joined to this. This is joined to that. And when I say big spider web, please don't go, oh, lol, drow. because that's there too. But I mean, I don't mean it that way. I mean everything in the realms is interconnected. I said the interconnectedness of all things, you know. but that's been my job, to just sort of point out stuff so far.
Did you have any involvement with the character representations, or how they would talk, especially with characters like Elminster and stuff being inside here? Were you involved in that process?
Yes, yeah. It is incorrect to think that everybody wants me to portray Elminster. After they've heard me do it at conventions, they either really don't want me to in their game, or they really think that's cool. Okay, that's how he talks and on. But yes, I've had a minor hand in saying, oh, this person should sound like this, and this person should look and sound like that, and here are some verbal tics. And by verbal tics, I mean little catchphrases that a particular character uses instead of So you know that you're talking to such and such a character, because they go back to these little phrases.
Little nuances and interactions?
There are sages who will say, "to be sure," and "indeed" all the time. And then there are pirates who would never use those words in their lives.
Make for an interesting meeting nonetheless.
Yes.
Do you know how it came to be that the Realms was actually picked as the setting for the expansion?
No. My presumption, but it's only that, a presumption, is that Wizards looked over the sales figures and said, this seems to be perennially popular, let's go with this. But I'm just guessing on that.
Have you seen any of it online, or play any of these kind of games yourself? I'm not sure if you're involved in the computer world for that kind of enjoyment.
A little. I have done some designing for computer gaming, but I live in a rural area in Canada that has what is laughably known as high-speed internet. And until recently, I was using Vintage Macs. And Vintage Macs are, they're like 10 years ahead of a vintage IBM machine, but they're still not set up for fast screen redraws, multiple animation, handling stuff that comes in over the telephone wires. I'm using them as glorified typewriters, and that's consuming all my time. I very rarely have time to play online, because my playing time is precious, and I tend to use it with friends that I want to get to see around a table. I'm so busy most of the time with the writing and the creative stuff and answering lore questions and quote fixing stuff that you see, the one thing, if you're playing a game that you already know the rules to, or that is easy enough to pick up sitting around a table with people who already play it, that's one thing. It's a short learning curve. Many of the computer games have a higher learning curve, just learning how to do things. Like, what key on the keyboard do I hammer to make the thing turn, or something like that. And therefore, unless there's somebody there to show me, I just, in the early days of computer gaming, it was all text-based. Cannot pick up lantern. Must drop staff to pick up lantern. Oh, okay. And you type in, okay. And then we moved to sort of Castle Wolfenstein. Remember that? Where the pixels were big, square, and blocky, and it's like, am I hitting this guy I'm firing at? Is he hitting me? Oh, the screen's turning red. I guess he's hitting me. But you couldn't see, the pixels are so crude, you couldn't tell in some cases. And you could easily overload your machine. So you were getting hit by people who were firing through invisible walls because your screen couldn't redraw it. It was like, oh, well, I think I'm going to wait a little bit until the computer world catches up with a flesh and blood DM across the table. And in some ways it still hasn't caught up, and in some ways it's really great. I remember being blown away by Riven, the sequel to Myst, because it felt and looked almost real on the screen. It helps that it's first person point of view, and it's not shooting, it's not combat, it's walking around at your own pace solving things, and that was wonderful. But I have had less fun playing. I mean, I look at stuff like Skyrealm now, and it's visually gorgeous, and I love to walk around and explore stuff, but I'm always conscious of the fact that that's what I'm doing. I'm running or walking across a landscape, and things are glowing and things and stuff. It's like, oh, yeah, we've come a long way. You know?
Looks great, but what am I doing?
Yes, yeah. So I do play, but not often enough, and not often enough to be, quote, good at anything. And the one thing that turns me off, and has always turned me off, is the intensely competitive nature of some online gamers. You know, my guy's a level 135th. You don't even want to come into the same room as him. And I go, and I don't want to have anything to do with you in a game, because you're not playing a character. You're playing a walking tank that you're trying to make better all the time. Oh, I can bolt this new thing onto my tank. He's a person, but he's a tank. I want to interact with characters. You know, and I want to have occasionally a game in which everybody isn't an old sage who is a source of information, somebody to fight, or somebody who's going to betray you. I would like a slightly larger character roster for the world, just as I would like it in the real world.
It's the one thing that was, I think, surprised a lot of players initially is the actual larger role-playing movement that started inside of DDO, and the ability for characters to jump on and work together and actually go through a dungeon, you know, without spoiling what's ahead, and getting to experience the game that way.
Yes, and that has been, you know, I really like that as well. For the first time, we were getting closer to replicating the cooperative teamwork around the table live action role-playing, or playing D&D pencil and paper the old way. For the first time, I really got the feeling it was a team, as opposed to quarterbacking.
Definitely. Yeah. Have you seen any of the videos or representations of it so far?
Yes.
Did they meet your expectations, or?
Well, yes and no. I liked them, but I always want more. Years ago, when there were discussions for a Forgotten Realms movie, way back in the Dear Dawn days, they were, of course, talking about the story they wanted to tell, and I could see that they were quite rightly trying to control their budget by saying, okay, we'll have scenes set in this room and scenes set in this room. And I was sitting there at the dinner table with them saying, yeah, but make sure we can see out the window there's a huge world with dragons flying through the sky, and there's lots of castles. You know, just show me a huge vista so that we're looking from up high out this window, and you can see cities in the distance, a jewel-like sea, a whole bunch of different castles near and far, so they get the feeling, oh, there's a huge world out there. And of course, that concern remains with me now when we're doing this other stuff, because I think to myself, okay, the nature of a computer game, because you don't want to overload somebody's computer, and you don't want to slow the thing to a crawl, is to focus in on what you're doing right now and make it very realistic right around the players, so that there's a realistic texture, there's a realistic, everything around you looks and feels right. But at the same time, I'm always, and I'm always thinking to myself, yeah, but never let them lose sight of the fact there's a huge world out there and they can go in any direction. And of course, those two things pull against each other, and always will. But it's cheap and easy to do it just with your voice and inflection and descriptions around a table. It actually requires real work to do it in a computer game, to show you that stuff. But that's always what I'm sort of in my back of my mind. Make them feel like they can go anywhere. Make them feel like this is a real world, and it's, from their point of view, damn near endless. Because in their lives, they will never get to explore every corner of it. Give them that feeling all the time. Remind them, you know.
That's one area in gaming that I think an MMO has that ability to really capture the audience. In normal computer games, you're in a fixed environment, in a fixed world where you have your clearly defined borders. Whereas at least in an MMO, they have the ability to expand and add on as it sees fit, and really the world will grow with the player base, which is kind of a nice effect.
But of course, that's the key thing. When you start your career as an adventurer in any form of gaming, whether, you know, the classical pencil and paper as well as computer, you're small cogs. You have an adventure in front of you. You can't just trash everything within sight. You have to work along, play your role. You are limited by stronger, more formidable foes, the walls around you, and so on. But if you're really going to be a hero, by the end of it, you should have reached the, I don't know, place in your career where you can control the world, or you can decide one morning, okay, I'm going to conquer Prussia, or whatever it is. And as a hero, as a mighty character, you can try and do that. And in order to have the feeling of that, I don't mean that you should wander around destroying the world every morning, but have the feeling that you can affect the world, that you're important enough now that you can have a lasting effect on this environment around you. You have to feel like you can go in all directions to do anything. I don't mean you actually will. We're always limited by time, our interests, what the other people we're playing with want to do, and how their desires conflict with ours, so we run into each other. But if you're going to be a hero, you have to feel like you can be a hero, and you have to feel like you can do anything. And that's the thing that I want the computer game experience to eventually reach. I feel like I can do anything.
Right, if you had 3 wishes for Dungeons & Dragons Online, specifically in the Forgotten Realms area, you know, given creative control and letting them have the world at your fingertips, what are three key things you would like to see of the realms highlighted, or possible changes or things you'd like to see in the game or enhance the game yourself?
Number 1, more characterization. And by more characterization, I mean show us the mid-level merchant traders, the wheeler dealers, the guy who says, hey, have I got a deal for you? You know, show me those guys. Don't show me endless sinister drow, because we've done that. There's nothing wrong with endless sinister drow, except we've done them. I want to see the character that Ricky Gervais played in Stardust, that we saw briefly, the trader who said to the witch, I can get you one of those. A dog that looks at the back and the front. So that sort of guy. And I want to see the really powerful wheelie dealies behind them, the beholders, the dragons, who use these guys as agents, because they know if I fly into that marketplace, everybody's going to flee screaming. So I need someone I can work through. So I want that. And following from that, I want more intrigues. Mature role-playing play around the table in the old days often involved going to other planes, or the lower planes, the upper planes, or alternate worlds. And it also involved intrigues, meddling in politics, trying to put yourself on the throne or become the power behind the throne, because you'd already opened the door, bashed the monster, taken the treasure 3,000 times. You were used to that, so you wanted something else. And I would like to see that move to the forefront in the gaming. There's always be a chance to hack somebody in a game. Heck, you're standing right beside them. You know, you can always say, I'm tired of talking to this princess. Chop! And then the consequences follow from being that antisocial psychopath that you've just portrayed your character as. But I mean, I would like lots of chances, mysteries, in small and large. And I don't mean always murder mysteries, but things to solve. That crown that went missing years ago, presumably on the head of the usurper who fled into the swamp screaming one night, and it was never found again. Where is he? Where did it end up? Because the guy who comes back into the throne room holding that crown in his hand is going to have a very strong claim, no matter who's sitting on that throne right now. Wouldn't it be cool if? And aren't there already 6 nobles claiming or hinting that they have the crown? They're not actually going to say it, but they're sort of like saying, well, wouldn't it be nice if somebody walked into the throne room holding the lost crown? Hint, hint. You know, and that sort of stuff. It's inherently more interesting than, oh, I guess we're going to hack another orc. You know, and so I'd like to see that out there. And of course, that's really hard to run when you have multiple players going at it, because everybody's saying, oh, but I've got the crown. Oh, no, I've got the crown. I'm Brian, and my wife is too. You know, all that stuff. But it would be really fun to try. And I would like to see more of that brought to the forefront. Because I think, for one thing, it would make the game more interesting and have more legs. People would stay interested longer. We all have busy lives. And the moment our online gaming experience becomes repetitive, the easier it is to say, I'm bored with that. Let's, you know. So I would like something that engages people. We've seen that the general public, not just fantasy fans, is prepared to invest in something if they are interested in the characters. Game of Thrones is a perfect example. People are following and watching that, despite the hugely high body count, despite the fact that every character who you come to like, who you identify with, chop, They're gone. The shall I use the word, assholes are the ones who survive and even flourish in Game of Thrones, and people are fascinated in following it. For years, it was the Borgias, and I don't just mean the latest TV series. I mean, for hundreds of years, they have fascinated. So we really like clashes between powerful people who aren't necessarily well behaved, and I would like to see some of that brought to the forefront. It's harder to do in any game, but I would like to see it. And that brings up the third thing. I would like to see clear, non-player character aims in the game. People trying to found a kingdom or whatever. The beholders and the dragons and the other actually becoming powers in the world. And we can see them doing this. So it isn't always just your player characters act on this static landscape and everything reacts to them. No, I want you to see that there are other groups of adventurers, more powerful than you, already at work. So if you're going to carve out your corner, you're going to have to carve out your corner. That'll make it a lot more interesting. I understand it shouldn't be too hard, because then it gets discouraging, and it's, how is this exactly a respite from my real life problems? I have worse problems in the game. No, I don't want that, but I do want to have all this stuff going on. And if I can sneak in a fourth, humor is hard to do in anything because it's so individual. What one person finds funny, another person doesn't. If I can make a gross generalization based on gender, most women do not find the Three Stooges funny at all. Many guys do, the slapstick stuff. But I mean, if we can put some humor in the game all the time, so it isn't unrelieved gloom and doom and the world hangs on my shoulders. You know, I don't want it to always be that. I want there to be the world hangs on my shoulders and we have time for a laugh. I want that to be in there, because that to me is the realms. I want you to smell the food cooking around the campfire. I want people to get up because they have to go and eat. Not just, we have to kill the king now. It's like, and after we've killed the king, I have to sharpen my sword because I hacked a lot of necks today. You know, I want you to see that there is life. And the merchant caravans bring stuff that is in short supply in one place because people need to buy it. When you take a dump, it has to go somewhere. So somebody has to carry the stuff away in a wagon, or it goes into a pit in the ground, and therefore you could use it to sneak into or out of the castle, maybe. You know, all this stuff. I need the things that happen in the society to work. Here I am sitting in my car outside the library this morning in the dear dawn days, and I'm watching taxi drivers start working. The first buses go out. The city workers go and then shut down an intersection because they're going to take down the faded flowers and put up new flower baskets. You know, all the stuff that happens in a city or in a market town or in a village. All the daily stuff, the guy collecting all the piles of horse dung and putting them in his little cart and trundling to the next one. I want all that stuff there so the world feels real, but I'm fooled into thinking this is a real place where things work. And it's, again, the interconnectedness of all things. If this, then this, I can take advantage of that. So perhaps your character wants to corner all the dung sweepers in a city and make $1 million rather than just go out and hack things. And there should be that opportunity in the game so you can actually earn money, have a day job, have investments, you know, all that stuff in the background, because there are people who like that too. One of the things that we tend to, in our hobby, focus on what we like. Everybody plays the way I play, I think. Oh, I know they don't. But I tend to subconsciously think that. And just to give you an example, for years, companies have published rule books, source books, game books, anything we call a product that isn't a novel or a short story collection, set in a fantasy world. Well, there are people who don't game at all. They just read the novels or the fiction. And what they do in between novels and fiction is they buy the game stuff and read it like a novel. In the same way that everybody got to the end of The Return of the King by Tolkien and read through the appendices, all the stuff about Rohan, devoured it because there's going to be nothing else from Tolkien. So they were reading stuff set in the world. And I want the world to feel real and suck them in to wanting more.
All right. Wow, that's
Yes, I'm long-winded.
no. It's there's so many different changes and stuff that can be brought to a game that you're right. For the most part, you're normally stuck in a small, finite role and a limited options as to what you can do. And it is the little interactions in games that make us feel whole or part of something, as opposed to just as you said, going out and killing squirrels.
Mm-hmm. And the achievements. If you do something, that moment in Tolkien where they find Balin's tomb. Okay, well, if your player character died 15 years ago and there's the tomb and it's still there, and the dungeon master makes sure it's in the world and you see it, or you name something or create something. Oh, it's my village. It's named for me. We did that.
I've never been prouder of dying than that moment.
Yes, you've achieved something. You've left your mark. Something most of us will never do in real life, or at least not the way we would like to. There, at my cottage up in Muskoka, there's a little wooden sign on the cliff saying "Historic Site of Victor's Leap," because Victor Selby, one of my friends and longtime gamers, got up one morning. It was very misty, and he walked over the edge of the cliff without realizing it. It just becomes it's juniper bushes in the rock shelf, and he came back into the cottage going, "Oh," because he'd fallen into the cliff. So of course we had to immediately make a historic sign, like a little plaque. But I mean, he left his mark.
One question I got a lot when I felt out the community for some of these questions, Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson both provided DM voiceovers and narrations for a couple of the dungeons inside the games. Is this something, if you were given the opportunity, you would consider doing?
Oh, sure. I love ham acting. And as a matter of fact, I have been providing, not officially to Turbine in this section, but for years, I have been providing, this is how so-and-so talks, usually just over the phone. And usually they would call me at work at the public library I was working at in the middle of the day. And I would be saying into the phone something very surprising for people to hear in a library setting, because I would be voicing a line that they'd said to me over the phone. Well, how would Elminster say this? And I would be giving it back in Elminster's voice. Or King Azun IV of Cormyr, how would he give this sentence? When he's speaking from the throne, how does it sound? And of course, they'd always end up, I'd be doing female characters in high squeaky voices, and people in the library would be going, what's he doing? Oh, prithee, my lord, dost not thou how I trow? Into the phone. But I mean, I've done that sort of stuff for years. And it's more, one of the things that is happening right now, because Wizards of the Coast is thinking about all these things, and they will want computer games and anything on television or movies or whatever to sort of match, is how do people talk in various regions of the realms? What do their accents sound like? Stuff like that. So, yes, I'm getting the chance, and I would be happy. I mean, I love ham acting. Give me a chance. Let me at it. I want to be the guy who says, don't need no stinking badges. I want to be the guy who says, what do we say to the god of death? Not today. I want to be that guy, and there are lots of gamers who do. So yeah, give me a chance, I will.
You guys heard that. Hopefully we'll get to see it sometime soon. It would be a great thing to witness. A couple quick community questions. First I'll go for a couple Elminster ones. What is Elminster's beverage of choice?
Oh dear. Elminster drinks all sorts of things. When in our world, he's partial to things he can't get in his world, so he will occasionally drink black cherry pop or Mountain Dew, golden pear liqueur from Hungary, this horrible sweet stuff, amaretto, stuff like that, just because he can't get it back home. He's even been known to drink chocolate milk and stuff like that, because he says, I don't know what lewd thing you did to the cow, but the cows in Shadowdale don't produce this. That sort of stuff. In the realms, he tends to like sherries, ports, and dry wines. If you took him to a sort of middle-of-the-road restaurant in Toronto or Peterborough, he would order a dry Riesling. just because he'd say, well, tastes like urine, but probably safer than the local water, and someone thought enough about it to put it in a bottle.
After one of these nights of drinking in said tavern, what is the most underhanded thing Elminster's done?
There have been so many. There's such competition. I would think the most underhanded thing he's done is used magic to translocate objects outside, so people thought thefts had occurred that hadn't, and reacted accordingly, allowing him to take advantage of the situation. I don't want to give too much away. This is a favorite tactic.
I can see a lot of different spots where that could go and different ways that could change. General Diomedes would like to know, how important do you think lore of a setting or game is to the enjoyment of a computer game based on it?
It is incredibly important in that all of our actions are empty if they have no lasting meaning. If it's a featureless landscape and you're, well, like the early days of gaming, where, and I'm not talking now about online games, but I'm talking about games on your computer, whether it's Tetris or anything else, where you were going to die, the game was going to end at a certain point. It was merely how high you got your score before the game shut down. That is essentially an empty game experience. It may teach you dexterity, you may figure out a few tricks, but ultimately you don't have the satisfaction of leaving any lasting mark, of achieving anything. And therefore the setting is what gives what you did a lasting impact. We have all had the experience of our starting to glaze over when somebody says, oh, let me tell you about this thing we did around the gaming table. It was really cool. Blah, blah, blah. We killed Asmodeus. Blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't mean anything to you. Yeah, that's nice. Because you weren't there. You didn't share the experience. But if you're sharing the world with this person, you can at least appreciate how difficult it was to go and kill Asmodeus because you know the world. And therefore, the lore is incredibly important. How much use you make of the lore depends on your gaming style. And I don't mean to suggest that people can't enjoy the game if they don't buy and memorize every single Realms product and they don't know all the secrets of the lore as well as the person sitting next to them. The game should still be enjoyable to a 12-year-old girl having her first gaming experience sitting at the table. So I don't mean to say that the lore is the be-all and end-all. But my job as a creator is to make sure the lore is there, piled deeply, for you to use if you want. Because you're paying for this experience. So what you're paying me for is to put in that much lore. You don't have to use it, but it should be there.
Okay, one last question before we finish up here. This one comes from Rain Amy. After seeing the plot line of how Lolth wants to use the dragon shards, I'd like to know your thoughts on how shards and artificers could affect the Faerun. All of Toril, for that matter, giving the major technology leap between the two. Let alone artificers themselves who want to set up any of their own projects there. I don't doubt Cormyr could contain them, but past those borders would be very hard. Would seeing this new technology and or the way of use of magic start to change Toril?
Yes, it's the short term. But, okay, that's the thing. The Realms is a huge, complex place. Don't forget, there will be countervailing powers and technologies that will inhibit what artificers can do with shards. And that's the way it should be. There's always a counterbalance. There's always another force. So nothing should be sweeping the world except fads. Not even fashions. Fashions take longer. Fads should sweep the world, but everything else, they're going to run into other people with other ways of doing things. So all of those things, all of those developments should be cool new additions to the toolbox. They don't make you throw away your toolbox because I've got this shiny new thing that does everything. You know, they should be, oh, that's cool, I can use that, but somebody will come up with a counter for it. So it'll just be one more thing you can do, one more piece of the toolbox. That's the short, flippant answer. The longer answer is non-disclosure agreement prohibits me from saying the things I would like to say in response to your question. There are lots of cool things I would like to reveal, but I cannot at this time because...
Well, I look very forward to seeing what those revelations may be. On that last note then, is there anything you have coming up that you might want to talk about or let us know about?
Oh boy. Most of the stuff I have coming up I cannot talk about. I should take this opportunity to shamelessly plug Ed Greenwood presents Elminster, the guy to Elminster's Realms, and he keeps. I still haven't mastered the title, which I did not come up with. It comes out in November. It's all sorts of rules-free stuff about how the world works. When you go to an inn, how do they stable your horses? What's the general menu of food on offer, and sort of what does it cost? That sort of stuff. It's full of little stuff you can use in any campaign world. Like what I was talking about earlier. What do you do with your chamber pot in the morning? I don't mean what do you do with your chamber pot for you. What does the entire city do with their chamber pots in the morning? And there are these little night soil wagons that come around and you pay a copper to dump your bucket, which is usually all the chamber pots from the household into the bucket. And it gets taken away. And it doesn't just get dumped, it gets used for something. Fertilizer of the fields. All that nice, soft, supple leather boots the Three Musketeers wear with the bucket tops, they have all, the leather's been softened in a large vat of urine, human urine, that some lucky person, and usually shifts of lucky people, because you get tired doing this, have trod down by themselves for hours to make the leather supple. Well, somebody had to gather all that urine. All that, yeah, all that stuff is in this book. Not in gross and gory detail, but I've tried to provide little bits and pieces that can be used in any campaign world. Doesn't even have to be the realms. If you have a quasi-medieval come Renaissance, so things are quickening into the Renaissance, so people are starting to do printed stuff by hand block printing, or by putting together little letters in a form. We're sort of at that level, but it isn't widespread yet. So there are newspapers, sort of, but we're vaguely medieval. Not necessarily historically feudal medieval, but medieval, around there. There are firearms. They are not widespread. They are not reliable. They are quite as likely to blow up in your face if you're trying to fire them as whoever you're firing at. We're sort of at that level. This book is full of stuff that DMs can pick up and use, and hopefully that will spur campaign ideas or neat little things that can happen. So it's usable anywhere, not just in the realms. And I want everybody to buy 15 of them so that they will then say, oh good, we need more realms books. And then we can write more realms books.
And I just want to confirm, because I think you mentioned a very good point. So this is completely non-system specific.
That's right.
Just straight fluff,
Yes.
flavor, and everything you ever wanted to know about every little nook and cranny.
Oh yes, and in fact, okay, the writing of this book became a little bit of a dog's breakfast, because I piled all this stuff in. And they kept changing the page count, so stuff got chopped out, and then they'd say, oh, but you gotta say something, and so I'd write some more, and then they expand the page count, and then they chop it again. So there was all sorts of stuff. But on two specific things, I had lots of poisons and lots of diseases. Okay? Now, those became a few poisons and a few diseases and all this stuff, but because of the nature of poisons and diseases, I had specific game rules in 3 editions of the game, written in. And the editor came in and took them out, because this is going to be rules-free. So we have to come out with a way of describing in a few lines of text what you were putting in numbers and stats and specific game information. Take that out. It's going to be rules-free.
Perfect. Well, Ed, I have to thank you. This has definitely been amazing, and I'm sure the community will very much appreciate it. You've went above and beyond and satisfied a lot of our curiosities.
I want to go below. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks again. And
pleasure.
this interview will be available through distribution through the DDOcast, and you should hopefully see it soon. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Epic Education, a show of tips and tactics for surviving epic content. I'm your guide Shamgar, and this is episode 24, The Lord of Blades Part 2, Tour de Forge. Last time we arrived at the Creation Forge for the showdown with the Lord of Blades. This is a raid of roles and nuances. At times, there will be a lot going on, and sometimes it happens quickly. A certain amount of autonomy will be required and expected. To cover this raid in greater detail and with better clarity, I will depart from my normal chronological style, and instead cover specific roles and techniques in detail instead of the phases of the raid. This is very much a raid that you can complete without much attention to details on normal, but as you challenge yourself with higher difficulties, you will find an increasing importance on not just fulfilling your role, but excelling at it. You won't notice it on normal, but on higher difficulties, there's quite a difference between the two. To begin, however, I will cover the boss fight from beginning to end in a sort of flyby guide. I will then return to these different phases, moments, and roles in successive segments. Let's look around and briefly get our bearings. We are standing on a large circular platform surrounded by some bright blue arcane sludge. It's similar to lava, but it does more damage, and it's not resistible. In the arcane sludge are several pillars that will be important later. In the center of the platform is a small circle denoted by a change in the floor pattern and a curious structure directly above it. This will also be important. Currently, this is where the Lord of Blades awaits with his entourage. This fight is divided into several phases, each divided by a series of lines delivered by the Lord of Blades himself. Each of these phases is further denoted by what abilities and tactics the Lord of Blade uses. To further complicate matters, some of these phases will have accompanying waves of trash, and there are the ever-present pair of beefy iron defenders, commonly referred to as the dogs. Phase 1 is the initial phase, and will be a bit chaotic to start. The main tank will be trying to acquire the Lord of Blade's attention. At the same time, the party will be simultaneously dealing with a handful of trash, the 2 dogs, and 4 active pillars. The trash consists of a few paladins and assassins, along with a single artificer. Most parties will kite the dogs, though you can choose to kill them, but will kill the trash before focusing on the Lord of Blades and the pillars. As long as the pillars are active, every 30 to 40 seconds the forge will charge. This will be a visible blue aura around the center of the platform, followed by it turning yellow when the forge becomes active. At this point, the forge buff is obtainable by one person in the party. If no one gets it, the Lord of Blades will. Whomever gets the buff will see an increase in their physical damage and a reduction in the cost of spell points. Players will also be given the ability to float, allowing them to attack the pillar bases. A player will notice 2 icons in their buff bar. The first is a blue icon in the shape of a person. This is the actual forge buff, and it does not give you a timer. The second icon is a black box with a red slash. This does have a timer, and it indicates how long until you can reacquire the forge buff. If you enter the center area while the forge is charging or active before this timer runs out, you will be put into a state similar to Flesh to Stone. The forge buff will end when this timer reaches about a minute 10. To deactivate the forge, you must destroy the 4 pillars. Each pillar has a top and bottom portion, with the tops having far fewer hit points. The ratio is something like 3 to 1. The active pillars will sparkle with a yellow graphic in the same way the active forge does to let you know which pillars you still need to destroy. It is not necessary to immediately destroy the pillars, but I recommend you do so by Phase 3. During Phase 1, the Lord of Blades will occasionally try to stun the main tank. If he is successful, he will spin his impressive spear behind him, doing damage in a quick succession of hits to anyone standing behind him, and will then end this move with a massive strike to the front. Once the Lord of Blades reaches about 75%, the second phase will begin. The Lord of Blades will become inactive for a moment to deliver his lines, and in the process will flush his aggro list. Shortly after he reactivates, he will summon the dogs to him. This is what is referred to as the dogs resetting. They will repair themselves to full health, even if they have been destroyed, and briefly run over to the Lord of Blades. After a few moments, they will return to their current target, though if they have been destroyed, they will have a new target. This is why groups tend to kite the dogs. The Lord of Blades will also start using 2 new special attacks during Phase 2 in addition to his stun attack. The first is his Whirlwind attack. He will begin this attack by twirling his weapon above his head in a sort of wind-up. When unleashed, this attack will not only hit several times, but it will bat you away, allowing him to chase you and bat you some more. This attack will also throw people behind him in front for additional batting. This attack is by far his most dangerous, and on Epic can easily take out half the party. His other special attack involves jumping into the air for a few seconds. He will then land on the north, south, east, or west points in the circle. If someone is standing near one of those points, he will alternatively attempt to land on them. When he does land, he will do an area of effect damage stomp that can eclipse 400 points of damage on Epic. If he does not try and land on someone, he will land with the same stomping effect and then charge across the circle, trampling people over along the way, and culminating in a vicious burst damage effect at the end of the charge. In either case, his aggro list will be flushed, and the main tank will need to reacquire aggro. You can shoot him as soon as he lands with a thrower to get his attention most of the time. When the Lord of Blade reaches 40%, the third phase will begin. As in the second phase, the dogs will be restored and briefly visit their master. The Lord of Blades will add in a fourth and final special attack while continuing to use the other three. This attack is commonly referred to as the Rain of Blades. He will shoot several blades into the air from his back that will then rain down on the entire platform except in the center forge area, which is why we want the pillars and forge destroyed by this point. This attack does allow a reflex save to reduce the damage, but it's still rather painful and epic. Everyone aside from the main tank and dog kiter should head to the center. Phase 4 will begin when the Lord of Blades reaches about 3%. In this phase, the dogs will be restored one last time, but the Lord of Blades will be mostly out of the fight. He will continue to jump into the air and land in the 4 cardinal positions and charge across the platform, at which point he will immediately jump back into the air and repeat this move. He will no longer single people out to land on them, however. To keep you busy in lieu of a big bad, 3 waves of assassins will drop onto the platform. In each wave, 1 artificer will drop at the 1 o'clock position, and he should be your first target. Particularly on higher difficulties, make sure to give at least your healers a blur. At the 5th and final phase will start when the last of the trash is killed. Most groups will pause and keep 1 or 2 assassins alive and kill the dogs at this point, though I have seen groups continue kiting the dogs until the very end. Regardless of how many times you have killed them, the dogs will not be restored again. Particularly on Epic, healers and casters may again torque up with the assassins, but I strongly recommend using no more than 2 assassins for this purpose. More tends to create problems in my experience. Phase 5 will start when the last assassin is killed. Note that they can die without a player killing them if they are left with few hit points, so it's wise to leave an assassin at full if you can. At this point, several things will happen. The first is that the Lord of Blades will revert to his Phase 2 mechanics. That means he will still jump, stun, and whirlwind, but he won't use his Rain of Blades attack. The second is that the rest of the pillars will become active, and the forge will be reactivated. This mechanic works exactly the same as before, except there are more pillars than before. Lastly, there will be a continuously spawning wave of quarry mobs coming from the center area of the platform. Killing them is an option, but they will continue to spawn until the raid is complete, so generally they are just kited around. This will include red-named versions of the quarry reavers and wraiths. Note, however, that the longer this phase takes, the more trash you will get. Casters make good kiters with their AoE spells, and self-healing is always a plus. Some groups will use someone with a Intimidate high enough to grab the quarry, but low enough to avoid Lord of Blades. Commonly, this will be the main tank, requiring an alternate for Lord of Blades. Kiters here will face particular challenges, and on higher difficulties generally require a healer to at least keep an eye on them. The quarry are not only able to inflict a healing curse, but they can cast Power Word Stun and Flesh to Stone, among other spells, prompting some kiters to use spell absorption items. High saves are also a plus here. This is the final phase of the raid boss fight. It does not end until you destroy the pillars. You actually do not need to destroy all of them. Once this happens, the portal the trash is coming through will close, and the Lord of Blades will leave. At this point, you will get a completion for the raid, but you aren't quite done yet. Once the Lord of Blades has left, a forced bridge will appear on the west side of the platform that will lead to a shrine and your loot. However, one of the chests is locked. To open this chest, which is the only chest where you can acquire the elemental spirits necessary for alchemical crafting, you will need to defeat 4 elementals, 1 of each type. This is done by talking to the 4 faces, asking them to take you to the elemental chambers. A final note. During the fight with Lord of Blades, if you die, you will not be able to immediately resurrected if you are running the quest on a difficulty higher than normal. On Heroic Hard, you will be prevented from receiving a res spell for a minute. This is increased on higher difficulties. Obviously, anyone sitting out for 2 minutes can slow things down, but losing key members of the party can result in a quick wipe. That will end this week's Epic Education. If you have any questions, comments, or corrections, you can email me at ddoepiceducation@gmail.com or visit my DDO blog at my.ddo.com/pjstechie. Join me next time as I continue discussing the Lord of Blades. Thanks for listening.
Hey, and now we're back with a live show.
Let's do the what you been doing part here. I've been playing Borderlands 2. Lots and lots of Borderlands 2. Where has Sig been? He has been shooting mutants and things with all kinds of strange guns. Anyway, that's a fantastic game. It's really a ton of fun. But it is limited. I will be finished with it soon. We did finish the main campaign, so taking a little break. And I did jump onto DDO this weekend and play a little bit. Leveled my Artificer up to 10. I love my Artificer. And also played my Zombie Wizard. Almost got him to 10 as well. And I guess enjoying my light damage fists just before they go away. So I was playing through Grey Moon, which I just wanted to comment on a little bit. That's the Grey Moon CO6 quests over in House D. And these are really old quests. They're from the original release of the game, and I still really like them a lot. There is a bit of repetition on them, but I have to say the environments are really well done. I mean, they had the most primitive assets to work with compared to all the other quests in the game, and yet they're really neat looking and they're just kind of unique, and stuff is laid out really well, and you fight an interesting variety and series of monsters. So I really think those are very cool quests and still well worth running. The weird thing about them, though, is they start out at kind of a lower level. I think the early ones are like level 5 or 6 quests, yes. And at the end of the chain, you're doing level 10 quests. So if you want to do them all in a series, sometimes it's hard to find characters that can tackle the end but are still challenged by the beginning. And I tend to solo them. It's another one of those kind of series that I'll run solo through a character, and it's just interesting to see how far they can get. So my Artificer made it all the way to the second to last one, and the swarms of Memphits were just too much for her. She couldn't quite take it. They would tear her turret down really fast and then make mincemeat out of her, and just couldn't shoot them fast enough. They regenerate and stuff. So the Wizard made it up till just the first Grey Moon quest, where there are cultists that have light beams, and the light beams just tore him apart in undead mode. So you might be able to do that one while just as a regular Wizard, but that was painful. It was like, oh, 60 damage. Oh, another 60. Oh, geez. That hurts. So
they have the best named loot in that series, too. I mean, not just because it's so effective, because for its level it is, but it's just so interesting. The mummified bat, which gives you featherfall. And
yeah.
I love that. Plus, how many quests are the second to last one is the really hard one?
Yeah, the second to last one is the tough one. And for me, it's that swarm of Memphits. That'll really test your characters out, both
Absolutely.
Teamwork and survivability. I was wishing I had some evasion, that's for sure. That makes Memphits a lot easier to deal with. But yeah, it's a fun classic series. How about you, Geoff? What you been up to?
Well, played some board games. Played specifically Shadows of Camelot, which is one of those types of games where it's everybody against the game. I don't really like that type of game very much, but my family just adores it, and I find myself doing it a lot. We almost beat the game finally. This is like our 6th attempt. Not quite there. Played a little Dominion. And during the week, I managed to get some levels on my completionist Mari. So she's come back for her 6th life. This time she's a dexterity-based battle cleric, and because there's a popular combination. And,
yeah, you don't see a lot of those.
And got her back up to level 6, so she's zooming her way back up through yet one more life.
Are you is that like a monk splash? Or are you finesse fighting or something?
2 levels of rogue for evasion, weapon finesse. I have a lot of rapiers on this character, so that's part of the reason that I went this way.
Yeah.
But so far she's hitting pretty good. I'm going to go heavy on the 2-weapon fighting feats and only light on the spellcasting feats. But I think she's going to go cleric all the way out. 2 rogue. I mean, she'll only be 16 cleric for a long time, right? 2 rogue, 16 cleric, and then she'll TR. So I think that's the plan.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, because finesse works pretty well up into low mid levels, and then by then you get Blade Barrier will come online, and you don't have to worry about how much finesse damage you do, but you can still kind of finish things off and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's the plan. We'll see how it works.
Yeah. The only thing I wonder is can you miss anymore? So do you need finesse, or could you just have low strength and not, and still hit things? I don't know. That's
a good question, because I'm, keeping Divine Favor up, and I'll be able to keep Divine Power up. But clerics have that limited BAB to begin with, so I would guess, you probably still want the weapon finesse, but maybe not.
Yeah. I haven't.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I haven't yet tested the limits of how hard it is to miss things. So we'll see. I have been taking my characters. I've been dropping oversized 2-weapon fighting. Just going, I'll take the -2 to hit. I'll get another feat. So I've been doing that.
Yeah, I don't have that in the chain, and I probably don't have room for greater 2-weapon fighting either. I'll probably prefer improved critical. So, and you only got 7 feats to work with.
Yep.
There you go. Yeah. So, but she's fine.
Cool. Darling wife, how about you?
Oh, hi. So, what am I working on? Oh, mostly playing Borderlands 2. That's what has been my life for gaming wise. So with you and maybe one or two friends on Steam. But other than that, I've been trying to mostly working. So yeah, not
Work?
much gaming, eh?
You don't do any work on this show.
Yeah, I worked on this show.
Oh yeah, there you go. That works. You know, fan work is permissible.
No, but most of my stuff has been focused on working on the DDOcast website and the MP3 files.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the process of backing them all up, making sure that all the meta information is correct on them, and retitling them so that they match the file name matches what's actually on the file itself, the podcast. And then I'm going to try to find a new home for them because I've been having a little trouble with cyber ears and trying to figure out what's going on, and some of the feeds haven't been, working as expected, so I'm a little bit scared. So I'm trying to back up all of them.
Yeah, we're just making sure, we don't lose any of our old shows, because we didn't really have them ourselves, so we're pulling them all down, and, we may switch some feeds around and stuff. But hopefully the goal is to make them more accessible and easier to find, that sort of thing. So, and safe. Safe is good.
Yes.
Cool. Let's do community news. A fair bit of that from the DDO Chronicle. Always excellent. Another name here. Spencerian has put together an incredible resource for people interested in learning to play the monk. And it's a website he's got. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like a little virtual book. And it's all kinds of things about how to play monks, how to build monks. It's quite nice and well presented. It's got little pictures and everything, so pretty cool. Laudrele, something like that, continues to make beautiful artwork, and this time she's got a drawing of her druid, Sharla, and it's a very cute picture of a lovely druid lady hugging a wolf, and it's just it's quite a charming picture. Neat stuff. Also, Chronicle comment: which quest would you most like to see turned into a raid, and why? Quests turned into raids. That's an interesting question. I've never really thought about turning quests into raids. I don't know. Not 303. I don't want to have a coil raid. That would be bad. I could list not Tomb of the Tormented. I could list ones I don't want to be raids. The Rat Maze raid. I'm not interested in particularly. What would make a good raid though? I'm not sure. I guess you could do a low-level raid, and you could do like Irestone or something. You could do a super Irestone. I don't know. What's a really fun quest that isn't raidable that could be? Oh, that's a hard question. I'm not sure. Hey, you got any picks, darling?
I like Delirium. So if we could do like the Zoriat version of a raid, that would be great.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. That if I had to pick a theme or a set of quests, to have a raid attached to that would be my pick too. I like that one. How about you, Jeff?
I actually put a lot of thought into this when I saw it was going to be in the show notes.
Ooh, you're ahead of us.
Analysis, that's just, you can't turn it off, right? So, I started by one of my favorite quests. Well, I really love Stormcleave, but we have enough quests that end with a giant fight, right? Mm-hmm. So that's no good. And I really love Giant Hold Tor. That's probably my favorite quest in the whole game. But it's already a raid pre-raid, right? So you can't have a raid pre-raid, right?
Sure.
So I went through and I looked at all the different levels to see where there's a gap, because I thought of like Irestone, a low-level one, but wait, we have a 6-level raid, Chronosphere, right? So, we have a 6, we've got 10, 12, every other level from 10 on, except 8. We don't have an 8th level quest raid. So then I thought, all right, what are some cool 8th level quests? And the winner, Caverns of Koramar. And I will give you 3 words why. Purple named Beholder.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Now that would make a lot of sense, especially if you had to do all 4 towers at the same time or something. Yeah,
there you go. Split the team up. Yeah, fun times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, that's a good pick. That is already. Yeah, that's a pretty big quest, and cool. Good to see. Okay. Let's see. All right, cool. What else we got? DDO video community update. So there's a new video from Tolero. You can get her see her wearing her owlbear costume, which is pretty cool. She has this big owlbear outfit. She doesn't wear it through the whole community update. That might have been even more amusing. But you get to see her with it on at the beginning. So that's pretty cool. And basically she's doing the mimic question thing in there and talking a little bit about her charity drive, which we're about to talk about. So it's called the Tolero's Charity Drive for Extra Life. And basically she's taking donations, and then as people pledge and donate, she must perform various tasks and do things to amuse us all and to inspire people to donate more money. So she has hit quite a few of her markers. So here are the things that Tolero has committed to do, lucky her. She will overdress for work in a cocktail gown. Tolero will join a Google Plus Hangout with the DDOcast to play a game of D&D for your amusement. And, of course, that's something we're doing. So I've been preparing for the D&D game. Tolero will cosplay as a drow on a day that isn't Halloween. Tolero will do a community update video dressed as a D&D monster. Well, she could check that one off her list. Tolero will roll a brand new Veteran 2 character, and donors can decide how I must gimp it. Tolero will spend my DDO playtime with my new GIMP character doing permadeath. See how long that lasts. I guess she has an easy way to end it. Tolero will spend my permadeath DDO playtime with my new GIMP character exclusively in pugs.
Oh, that'll go for 2 quests, maybe 3.
These are pretty cool. Tolero will tell everyone what characters she is playing with and what server on the 20th, and you can come pug with me and pick what quests we run. Tolero will forego playing all the other games on my marathon list and make the entire 24 hours DDO only. Tolero will get the devs to take 2 existing non-epic items and epic them. Feather of Sun has already been agreed upon. Wahaha. Has already agreed. I see. That's the dev, Feather of the Sun. Donors will get to decide on 2 items, which 2 items it is. So far, the donor votes are Voice of the Master and Mantle of the World Shaper. Remember, Pardon?
Those are excellent choices. Good
yeah,
thing.
I would agree with that, because everybody's got one, so it'd be nice to epic those, definitely. Remember, even if we meet this goal, you can still donate to join the suggestions until the 20th. Can't say Tolero. You say Tolero too many times, it becomes harder. Tolero will convince some of the dev team to come play in our pickup groups for a little while through the marathon. Guest devs so far will include Melange and the Quest team. Another member of the dev team must cosplay a drow with me. All of my donors can receive a special DDO forum title of Hero. If you want in on this forum title, a donation of any amount before October 20th will get you one. All of my donors will receive a code for a Winterwolf pup. The cosmetic pet is not available in the DDO store. Remember, even if we meet this goal, you can still donate on to get until the 20th to get the Winterwolf. Donors get to pick an item type that will be made for Epic Giant Hold items. Kopesh, Runearm, Belt. Donors will decide the fate of one of the new Update 17 items, which is also a tip, I guess, that Epic Giant Hold will be in Update 17.
So it seems.
Yeah. New goal. Yeah, a little bit of a hint there. A new goal at $1,500, donors will get to pick another item that will be made for Epic Giant Hold items. Donors will decide the fate of another Update 17 item. So that's pretty cool, and we'll have links in the show notes, but you can search for it for Tolero's Charity Drive for Extra Life, and jump in there, get a Winterwolf, and help out a good charity. Let's see, I already did that. So I guess that's it for our community updates, and then we've got Lightning Post. Sorry, go ahead, Sweets.
In the video, she does what a owlbear sounds like. So what do you guys think an owlbear sounds like?
Are you gonna make me do my owlbear impression?
Oh no.
Yes.
Well, hers was pure owl. It was just hoo hoo.
Well, actually, I think she said Gurhoo, something like that.
Gurhoo?
Yeah, there was a little gur at the beginning, so like, Gurhoo. That's pretty good. I like that. So yeah, I always did them. I did the opposite. I go hooger. So hooger, like that. Starts out friendly, ends kind of mean.
whoever you are, I'm going to kick your backside now because I'm a bear.
You'll notice one of us hasn't done a... Oh, there it is. You want to do a simultaneous hooger there, darling?
Okay.
On the count of 3.
1,
2, 3.
Hooger.
All right, there we go. That's enough owlbears for now. Lightning post. So we got some emails and G+ things and stuff like that I thought would be interesting to go over. We got some more too. We got a lot of we asked for questions for Ask DDO, so we'll do another one of those and we'll save some of the questions. But we've got a few of them here too. John Brownlow from G+ said, last night I ran Caught in the Web for the first time. Most of the raid wasn't too bad. However, the part where you have to defeat the portal keepers was long and difficult. I also stated in the LFM that I really wanted everyone to be a first-timer in the raid, so it would be more exciting for all of us if we finished and when we finished. We all did great in just under an hour and pulled tons of named loots plus 1 recommendation of heroism. I myself managed to pull the spear and was very happy. So I thought that was pretty cool. Just goes to show that if you have good team play, you don't need to know the quests inside and out. And I think Caught in the Web is actually a pretty nice difficulty level. It's definitely challenging. It lets you warm up the team on the prior stuff, and then that final fight is definitely the most challenging part. It takes some coordination, but it shows that it can be done by a pug of people who have never done it before, and I think that's pretty cool. But if they were bad players, they probably would have died. So it's not like a piece of cake thing. It's definitely a bit of a challenge. So neat. Ryan on Facebook asks, do you think they will add guild vendors to Evening Star and a Stone of Change and a crafting hall? Or do you think they will the new buffs to guild boats or fluff? Because once you hit level 100, it becomes rather pointless. So 2 questions. My take, and then we'll go around the horn here. I hope that they put a Stone of Change and some guild stuff in Evening Star. The thing is, they'll have to reskin them a little bit. Stone of Change doesn't look very Evening Star-ish. And Cannith crafting would be a hard thing to put in Evening Star, so I'm guessing that's not high on the list. But some guild vendors would be really nice. They do need some more amenities over in Evening Star. It's a little bit of a pain to go back and forth to get to stuff. So I would definitely like to see those things. Maybe even if it's just another portal from Evening Star that goes over to the Cannith crafting or something like that. But then they have to lure it. I don't know. That can be kind of challenging. But it'd be nice to have a little bit more services over there so we don't feel like I have to go back over to the other side to get stuff. I doubt we're going to see a lot of new stuff for guild ships, just because there isn't much demand for it that I know about. I think it was always intended that the high levels of the guild are pretty much prestige things, so hitting 100 is more of a bragging right than it is about the stuff you get. So I'm guessing they're not going to change that, but you never know. Jeff, you got any input on these?
Well, historically, once they're done with the system, they don't really go back to it. So, I don't see them extending any of that out into Evening Star, really. And I don't really see a reason to. It's not that hard to go back and forth. So now I think they might someday. They said at the time they were launching guild ships that there was a couple of things they'd missed, like they really thought the idea of guild mail was a good idea, but they just didn't get it in. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see some upgrades to the guild eventually, but I don't know how they're going to work it into Evening Star or if they'll even bother to try.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, Evening Star, you could have some kind of teleporty thing, but I guess you can always buy guild ship teleport things. Those are pretty cheap, and pop up to your airship that way. I know my guildies often do that.
I was hoping they would put like an Eberron embassy, sort of like how countries put embassies in other countries. So like a little pocket of Eberron in Faerun.
Well, that's a great idea. I mean, that would really, it would fit the lore of the story that's going on, and yet it would also be very, would make a lot of sense. I think that's a great idea. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very good thinking. Or maybe just a planescaller. Just one guy, so we can go back and forth a little easier.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Just a planescaller would be great.
Yeah.
Is there a potion vendor in Evening Star anywhere? Because that's something that I think would be really nice, is, and perfectly lore appropriate, is to have somebody that sells potions there. Yeah. I don't think there is. I know you can get some potions from the turn-ins and stuff, but it would be nice if they just had a potion and a wand vendor out there. Because I don't know, it feels like it's is it worth it to go back to the other side and get the potions and then come back again? I don't know. That would be a nice thing to just pick up there. But
I think the reagent vendor sells some stuff other than just reagents, but I can't remember what. And it's probably not a full selection no matter what. I think it's just some things.
Yeah. But I mean, just especially as they build more and more stuff out there in Evening Star, it'd be nice to have some amenities to go along with it. So, and probably not very hard for the devs. So, I think that's kind of an easy thing they could do. Let's see. Galvin posted on our Facebook page. He said, with another bug, XP, Stone of Change XP, slipping through Mournlands and onto Lamania, I would like it if you asked on the show if people who do the beta testing feel that it is worth their time. How much weight does player feedback carry? Also, if you have any official word from Turbine, it would be great. They're taking their hide skill. Oh yeah, taking the hide skill at the moment on the forums, and people are really unhappy that nothing has been acknowledged. Well, yeah, I don't have any official word from Turbine. Don't have Jerry here today. He might be able to give one, but probably not too much about this. I think the thing is, I know from software development, you don't fix all the bugs before you publish your stuff. You have a deadline to meet, and sometimes you push the deadline, but a lot of the times you're trying to stick to it, and you've got to triage stuff. You've always got more things to fix than you have time to fix them, and you pick which things you're going to have and which things you aren't. So even if you know about the Stone of the Stone of Change XP bug, well, or Stone of XP bug, sometimes you're going to put it out there anyway, and just hope for the best. Sometimes you misjudge. Certainly, we had some serious problems with the Stone of XP, and I think it ended up being a bigger issue than they thought it might be. But I'm guessing at least somebody knows about those things. Also, the other thing that can be a challenge is, just communication inside of a company. You've got the tester who finds out about it, or a specific dev, and then that gets emailed to some people, and it goes in a bug list, and then maybe that doesn't get reviewed when the executive producer is going to make the calls to whether the game's going to ship out on that update or not, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of stuff that has to happen. It's a big machine, and it can move kind of unwieldy. And as far as devs hiding on the forums, they seem to come in waves. I think when they're really busy, you won't see them very much. It's not really their primary responsibility to get out there. That's what the community team is for. But the community team can't always comment on the technical things, so that could be a little bit of a challenge. I certainly like it. The more they're out there, the better. Although, I want the programmers programming and the artists doing art. But it's nice to see them once in a while. Some of them do it a bit more than others, but I don't know. I try not to be too hard on them unless they make whoppers of errors, which there's been a few. But I don't know. That's how it goes. So, is it worth your time beta testing? I don't know. For me, I'm not a big beta tester. I do it a little bit, but I don't, consider it a duty. It's more just sort of something fun to go try things out. If I find bugs, I will usually report them. I don't necessarily expect they'll be fixed or not. If you do put in a lot of time as a beta tester, I think your reward isn't always that you're listened to, that whatever you find they fix, or whatever it is that you don't like they change. But you do get some communication with developers. The more you do it, the more you'll kind of be their pal, and that they'll give their appreciation to you. So it depends. But and I think they try. They run events for people out on Lamania, and they run the Mournland server and all that kind of stuff. So I think they make an effort to express their appreciation, but it's no guarantee that if you find a bug that it gets fixed. So that's just not part of beta testing.
Well, and Lamania is not really a beta server. It's a preview server.
That's true, yeah.
Historically, the whole time, if it's made it to Lamania, unless it's just really, really bad, it's coming live. And sometimes even when it's really, really bad.
It's still coming live. It's true. They usually do have a few more updates, but I think often those things are already in the works by the time you see it on Lamania. So the Lamania one might not be the very final version that goes live, but it's going to be real close to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is true. Let's see, Thad via email writes in and says, Archer's focus can be used while jumping and still increment the counter as long as you don't move otherwise. This can prevent damage from ranged attacks from foes. Not quite as good as kiting, but less damage is less damage. So that's a nice tip. Nice. And he also, I didn't know that. Often, some things jumping seems to interrupt and some things it doesn't, so it's good to know about that one. There was some discussion about quest repetition XP penalty. I really think that the completions should drop off after 1 week or something similar. I don't see a development reason at this point to limit a player's XP playing the game. Do you? No, I don't really. I think the quest completion thing maybe can go or can change to something that goes away eventually. There's a ton of quests in the game. I know originally it was really to try and get people to try out different things and to spread out a little bit, not run the same quests over and over again. And it works to an extent, but I think for the most part, it's something you could lessen up on. I think it's still worth having it for a certain time period, because it prevents people just running the same quest again and again and again and again and again to an extent. But yeah, it'd be nice. There are quests you like to do. You might want to run it once a week. It'd be fun, and I don't think we should be prevented from doing that. So, yeah, I'd like to see a change there.
I would like to see have it to time limit. So it's kind of like how, when you ransack a chest, you can ransack a quest XP.
Yep.
I think that's an awesome idea.
Yeah. So I think we're all agreed. Yeah. And I haven't met anybody who doesn't really like that plan, so I don't know. Hopefully they're seriously considering it there. I'm pretty sure they're aware of it. I know Jerry's I heard one of those podcasts, so they got the idea out there. Let's see. Other gaming news. Congratulations to our friends at Kobold Press / Open Design. Midgard campaign setting is published and in print and in PDF. Wolfgang Bauer, Jeff Grubb, and Brandon Hodges bring to life a Central European flavored world of darkness and deep magic for Pathfinder role-playing game and the AEG system. And this was patron-funded project, not a Kickstarter. Although I think there wasn't some supplementary Kickstarter stuff, but
yeah,
I definitely
Midgard Tales.
Midgard Tales. Okay, that's right. But it started before
Midgard
Kickstarter.
Bestiary.
Yeah. Oh, okay, right. But this is kind of their core book campaign setting, and we were at a release party that Ann helped plan just last night, and that was a ton of fun at the AFK Tavern, which is really cool. It's a gamer-themed bar and restaurant here in Tacoma, Washington, just a little north of where I live.
Everett.
Oh, Everett. Sorry, Everett. Yeah, Tacoma South, Everett North. There we go. Very good. Anyway, if you live in the area and you haven't been to the AFK, you should.
Greater Seattle area.
Yeah, it's really cool because, I don't know, it's run by gamers and it's for gamers, and it feels like it's a gamer place, but they have cool food and great drinks, and, you can really get some excellent drinks. They have great beer, they have really good root beer, all kinds of good stuff. And you're welcome to sit and play a game as long as you like at one of their tables. They won't kick you out. So, and it's usually really full, so they could kick you out and make more money maybe, because on weekends it's just packed in there. But, they're gamers and they respect your desire to play a game, so, I don't know, it's a pretty awesome place. And it was really cool to do the Midgard party there. They made a special menu, and we gave away, copies of the Midgard campaign setting. A friend of mine won one. That was pretty cool. And, I don't know, we had a great time. And, I don't know, Kobold Press is just a really cool company run by really cool people, so worth your while to check that out. Let's see. A lawsuit claims patent infringement by Turbine. This was kind of interesting. So some place called Treehouse Avatar Technologies, who we have never heard of, filed a lawsuit against Turbine to say, hey, you have used our method and system for presenting data over a network based on network user choices and collecting real-time data related to said choices. If that isn't incredibly vague and generic. And that they have been granted this patent just last year, and that Turbine is infringing and owes them money because Turbine has character attribute data linked to one or more character datas on their game, which is, of course, complete BS. This is just kind of typical technology patent suits where somebody gets a patent for something that already exists and then claims damages even though they don't publish anything whatsoever. I hate that stuff. It's rather awful. I don't really like the way patent rules work very much for software development these days. It just leads to a lot of this kind of nonsense. And yeah, so here's games that have been around since 2006 and 2007, and they got their patent in 2011, and they think they're owed money for it. And it's just nonsense. So hopefully Turbine can squash them with a minimum of expense and fuss. So phooey on you, Treehouse Avatar Technologies. Yeah, that's my thing about that. I hate that stuff. Ann and I were actually talking about ways, I don't know, how could you make patent law, and there's been a subject that we were listening to on the radio as well. How can you change patent law to make these things less of a problem, and often feel like, if you're going to make, especially for software, if you're going to have a patent suit, you need to have a product that's actually out in the marketplace using this thing and show how the other project is an actual competing product. Because, the R&D time, there is R&D time on software and development stuff, but it's not really like a lot of other things. And software is, it's all about breaking things into generic ideas. And I think that kind of stuff is hard to patent. So I'm not really a fan of, that kind of stuff. So be it. And copyright's cool. Copyright on code is a very different deal. That basically says you cannot steal people's code. But patents are different. I think that's about it for today's show. You got any parting thoughts for us about the new quests or anything else there, Geoff?
Nope. Today's hour was more than made worthwhile purely by the synchronous Hooger.
Glad you enjoyed that.
Also, readers, please go check out DDOgamer.com during the week or GamerJeff.com. There's usually at least one new story a day during the week.
Oh, awesome. What's the latest article up there?
Now I have forgotten. I should know. Oh, no. What a horrible promo person I am. It's probably about DDO, though, so go there and read it. I'm sure it's really good.
Cool. No, I like your website a lot. I go there about once a week or so and read through stuff, so quite good. How about you, darling? Any last thoughts before we head out?
I want to point out that we haven't played the segments during the live show because of our time limit situation.
Yep.
So keep an eye out on the spot and look for the republishing of episode 260.
Yeah, we'll make sure that everybody gets a chance to hear them and they're highlighted and stuff, because one of them out there, we just kind of have the time laid on the way we record things now. And normally we could probably play the segments, but these are really long segments, so it'd be we would be talking for 10 minutes and then we'd play segments. So so that's going to be it for today's show, except for the segments, of course. Big thanks to Anne for all your hard work on putting this one together, and big thanks to our excellent, as always, co-host here, Geoff. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, anytime, man. And big thanks to all the DDOcast contributors who sent in those excellent segments. And that includes, I'm going to scroll up here just to name them. It's a long way to scroll. Okay, maybe I'm not going to do that. Anyway, thanks to Turbine for making an excellent game.
CSI Stormreach.
Oh, there we go.
Shamgar. And Deadnettle.
Awesome. All right, thank you guys very much. And big thanks to Turbine and Wizards for making the game we like to play. If you want to be a part of the show, you can leave us a voicemail on our toll-free York line at 1-885-DDO-YORK, or email us at ddocast@gmail.com. Give us something to say on the air, or be a guest, just like Geoff. And if you want to be a part of the legacy, you can make a segment or a commercial for us, and we will play that and keep it forever. And we'll go out with a little bit more of DDO Puzzle Music Electro House Remix.